right? Because they approved that.
I don't know.
Well, I'll look for it. gonna give Jim these.
What?
I just, so he can look at them real quick for me. That's the minutes when we changed it. I haven't looked at it. Did you find the mistakes?
No, I did not.
I will go look. And then, I'm assuming I'll just give them each one of these now?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Alright. Are you going to look or?
I will, I already looked once, I can't find it, I'll look again.
I know, I could have swore I had it somewhere. Is it in my, maybe it's in here and I just didn't realize it.
What are you looking for?
A copy of, maybe it's online. No.
It's cold in here already.
Huh?
Cold in here already.
Find out, maybe Flo.
66.
Turn that baby up.
Pay for the whole bus service for a year.
You think that's the first time that they allowed those?
I'm not sure they did. I have no idea what you're talking about.
an envelope for you.
I wasn't able to get into my, you still got that?
Well, because, like I said, it was given to him, and you did have postage.
So it hasn't been sent then?
Yeah, it was mailed out.
Oh,
Yeah, Dan mailed it out.
okay.
Yeah, we saw it on film.
Yeah, we had to watch it on film.
So I gave it to you then?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Push her in just a little bit.
Yeah, it's probably. Now that. Morning.
Yeah. Morning.
Oh, shit.
Morning, Mike. Question.
Well,
Would you
first of all,
put yourself
all
in
that
now?
time for nothing, the whole thing was
That's gotta be
over.
April
I'd like
1st.
to, well, I didn't, it should be in by now.
It didn't matter. No, it didn't.
Believe me.
You're voting on the petition, not,
But like I said, if you don't
all right.
get it in, you're gonna miss it. And I'll not forever, it's in one of my notes here now. Okay.
What do you want to do? So what is this?
That's your dollar.
Oh,
He's gonna have to get his
my,
password is out.
I can't get into my computer. I don't know.
All right, so
I got
did
three
you call
right
out scale and
together.
reset? That's what you gotta do.
Here, same.
Who's sitting over there? Dan. Dan, you don't need a copy of all this, do you?
I like one.
I would like one. Jim doesn't know, so I just gotta get these two over. You left this last week? Here, I'll leave my stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
All right, these are our copies if we need.
Yeah, that's right.
I have 3 extra copies.
See, you were hesitant to give me one.
I know. Yeah, I have 3 extra copies of everything if we need it. Okay. You ready?
Yeah. I got one by your desk.
When's the deadline for the newsletter? You know.
I do have one too.
I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, morning. Let's see.
I don't know.
I got one. Yeah, there used to be on my side.
I hope that's right, because he told, Adam said we would know before it
There's
went in.
a couple kids in for Archie or Alton Boys.
Yeah.
I don't do the newsletter, so, and I don't write anything for it.
So who does do it?
Press. I know all the stuff has to be submitted by a certain date.
That's what I'm guessing.
She's got, she literally, she fell and damaged something and she couldn't stand somewhere. She had to be, she was stuck in bed for 9 months, no lights on.
Never mind, this is the wrong
Wrong
folder.
folder.
Wrong folder.
That's all right. If she
Never mind,
was
wrong
outside,
folder. Let me get the right folder.
she took
I
over
sent you a
her
copy
business
of all
and still kept working.
the minutes.
Okay.
And then
Did you
this
see the changes?
I
That was regarding the yellow part.
Yeah, the two lines.
I know who you're talking about.
I sent an
It's
email
been 3 years since they left.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but it was early this morning.
Oh, well, that's why we didn't
You
know
didn't
that.
see it.
That's what that was about.
Yeah. I sent
Okay.
it.
Yes, and I know where they live too, because
Yeah, so you'll see, that's fine.
I know.
Mr. Chairman, what's the deadline for submission for the,
Newsletter.
You know, I don't know, because we're way behind. 3 weeks, give it to me.
Well, thanks for.
within the next few weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how much space will we allow?
There's, what I have.
You know, Steve, let me look at that and I'll get back to you. You know, like,
And then how are we gonna do it? The trustees get a section, or each trustee gets
no,
one?
the whole, all you get one column, I don't have a lot of space.
Okay.
His son, Roger,
Good.
I knew you would like that.
Yeah, I figured so.
And then a question about the annual meeting. I mean, this isn't a, the trustees can go to that, right?
Oh, yes.
I think they're supposed
There
to.
wasn't any much time to talk about church.
You have the same power at that meeting as a regular citizen, as an owner. So
You're an elector.
you're elected, but you're an elector at that meeting, you have no different powers.
Yeah, but according to that, according to the agenda, we're introduced.
Yes, you may come, yes, obviously.
Any elected.
Any elected official can come. And I would encourage you to come.
Stan?
All right, I have 9 o'clock. Call this meeting order. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, call the meeting order. I see no public present at this meeting. So we'll move on. Any new business at this meeting right now? None being heard, we're gonna move on to old business. Okay, continued discussions on the Mchenry Township budget. You asked for a variety of things, and we provided those to you.
Yeah, we got them after 4 on Friday, so it's a little hard for us to digest it all. And then one of the trustees couldn't even get in. I guess they changed the password again.
The password changes quarterly, so they have to log in. You can't just log in.
And you have to call Xcal to reset your.
Unknown caller. Thought I had that sound.
Everybody looks
We're probably all guilty of it.
Yep.
All right.
Better hear than
I
the
didn't even
church.
bring mine in today.
I think those after church is really damn big.
Well, I can also tell you what's posted. Okay. Anyways, so
And then I would ask that the agenda and the statute be posted for the proposed new ordinance, rather. For the township be posted, at least here on, it's posted on the website, right?
correct.
So can we post it here too?
Sure. You mean the proposed ordinance?
Right.
Okay, sure.
I guess it's physically posted.
You want it physically posted? Sure. And for your, it is on the website, very first page, all you have to do is click on it. All right, so where do we want to start, John?
Everybody does have a copy of the third draft.
And then how soon after the end of this month will those figures be available for the entire last year?
Not until mid-April, end of April, when we meet with the accountant and the auditor.
Oh, it might be late April, beginning of May before they get the audit report. End of May even before the
End
audit
of May
report.
before we even get the
Report
report back
back.
from the auditors.
Might be May or June before we get the report back.
But you're just talking about the budgeted line items?
You're talking about the total numbers at the end of
Right.
the year? Oh, those will be available, what,
After
Yeah.
the April
after
board meeting.
After our April board meeting.
I could have them for you possibly on that Monday.
Then we'd have a complete year.
Correct. Correct. I understand.
That's pushing it, I'm just gonna tell you guys right now.
So
To be
there's-
able to give you those numbers, I can give you a report with those numbers, but to get them into here is pushing it.
I'll get them in here, Debbie gets them. It's just that this time of year is very, very busy for us accounting wise. We've got audits, we've got all kinds of.
We have our end of year.
End of year, we've got audits, we've got everything.
But once we do the April board meeting, everything's closed after that.
Less any adjustments that might need to be made.
And that comes during audit time.
That comes during all the time. So they will be as close as numbers as we can give you. All right. So, you wanted some bus numbers? I've given you those there. First of all, we did you wanted to know the trips, where most of them were. We did a 2-page thing there. We just broke down the month of February, because to break everything down would take forever. So we broke down the month of February, which will be pretty much a typical month of the way the trips go. And then we broke it down by percentage of trips. Do we have that from us? The 2-page document?
Yeah, they should have a whole packet.
All right, so to understand this graph better, when you say trips, that's a single one-way trip or a round trip?
No, that's a single one-way trip.
All right, so just looking at the sheet it's titled February 2019, the trip to the Chase Bank, that was apparently someone that went to the bank but then found their own way back.
I didn't prepare this chart. No, they would have gotten right back from us too.
Right.
We're not
Go to
showing.
another-
Well, then it really, then it kind of defeats the whole purpose. We're trying to figure out how many trips.
What page?
Right, but if they went from the bank back to somewhere else, that's another trip.
That's another trip, and we've got
And it
some.
would be recorded.
We've got somewhere on here.
What do you mean? That's on the next page of the breakdown?
I'm just trying to make head or tail of it.
Right.
To my way of thinking, that means that it was a single destination. Now, if you're getting other trips,
They may go from here to the grocery store.
What do you mean by here from here?
They may go from the Chase Bank. After they've done that, they may then go to the grocery store, go to the doctor, or go somewhere
I
else.
thought you said here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they could have multiple stops.
They could have multiple stops on a day.
and each one would be considered a trip.
Correct. Each one is an individual trip.
All right, so I'm trying to figure out how this works. Somebody calls in for a ride,
Mhm.
and then they say, just for example, take me to the Chase Bank.
Mhm.
Then the bus waits there for them to get out?
It may or may not, depending upon the schedule.
Well, what's,
They may drop them off at the Chase Bank, and then they may have another trip scheduled to the doctor. If it's a very short trip into the Chase Bank, they'll probably wait for them. But if they have a very tight schedule, they may have to leave, and a different bus may come pick them up due to scheduling. They may have to wait. It's not going to be, they may have to wait 5-10 minutes in some cases to get their next ride.
so if somebody makes 7 different stops, that would be considered
Those would be 7 different trips, but we do have,
Plus the return trip, so it'd be 8.
plus the return trip, correct.
So as I understand it, the county runs a separate bus line for the veterans.
The county VAC does run a separate bus line, but I'm not entirely sure, but I think most of those rides are just going to the VA in North Chicago.
I've talked to them,
Okay.
and they say they'll take you there to the McHenry.
They'll take you to where?
They'll take you to the McHenry VA, which is
okay.
actually, I think, in
McHenry.
the township, right?
That is in the township.
Yes.
Yes, I believe it is.
And then you were going to suggest how much the donation should be?
My suggestion is going to be to raise the donation to $2 for the next.
That is on the,
And I put it in the budget.
that's part of the third draft.
Oh, okay. And then what, can you just tell me what page that is?
It's gonna be on revenues, it'll show on revenues, page 2, and it'll show on Senior Express, page 7.
See, I'm kind of scared about those lines because it really is a donation. They don't have to give it. So you're actually putting into your budget money that isn't, I know it's likely that some people will pay.
Past history, the majority of people pay. You're right. Is that the actual number we're going to receive? That's what a budget's for. You can't guarantee every number in the budget. It's a plan.
A bare majority pay, according to these figures you've given. So this donation, that's considered to be each trip, right?
Each trip, each way. Each trip.
So somewhere around 60% of the people.
If you say so.
Well, it's right here, if these figures are accurate. You've got 1,141 one-way trips in February of 2019. And you've got $836 that has been collected.
You are correct.
And then how did you arrive at $2 for that?
What I'm trying to do is, without doing it in all 1 year, we're trying to get to the same fare that the county McBride is charging. So the following year, after this year, I would raise it to $3, but I'm doing it in incremental steps.
I just want to make sure we understand what the current McBride is. That's $3.50?
No, the current McBride, I believe, is $3.
She said $3, and then after 5 miles,
After
it's
so many
25
miles,
cents, she said.
after so many miles, they
After
pay
5
more.
miles, she said, that's what she said last week.
I think they pay another quarter, 50 cents.
25 cents per mile
Yeah.
after that, is what she said last week.
Not per mile, for so many miles.
After 5 miles.
Right.
No, after 5 miles, then it was 25 cents a mile, I think she said.
No, it's not per mile. It's like for another 5 miles. or
Another
something.
5 miles?
That would be pretty costly.
Well, she said most trips aren't over 5 miles.
Yeah.
Or it could be very costly. Anytime you get a trip someplace for 25 cents, that's not costly for a mile.
So anyways, that's how I arrived at the $2. I'm incrementally trying to get up to the same fare as McBride.
Steve, what page were you on that you were able to calculate how much?
It's taken in for the rides?
For rides.
That's in the other packet. Mike, that packet I gave you. It's on this page.
Not that one.
No, you had it right there in front of you.
What page?
That page that you're on. He's going up. They're not numbered.
Just, I don't think you have that page. No, no. You have to get the same thing she's got.
The next page, right there.
I realize this isn't your office, Mr. Evans, it's the assessor's office, but these 3 vehicles for the assessor's office, according to this, they're not really being used very much. My question is why do we need 3?
Can't answer that, you have to talk to the assessor.
Are you through with the buses, Steve?
No, I mean, the whole bus service is, all I'm trying to do is get a complete picture of how much a ride costs. And so,
I figured that out for you again.
no, you didn't figure it out again. We now are adding things that weren't in the first one.
Figured,
Okay.
I refigured it out with the added things, Steve.
Right, it's on this, that's that page right there. On the cover sheet. Has everything included.
I added the insurance, I've added
Workman's comp.
workman's comp in there, and all of our expenses.
But you didn't add in, that figure cannot take in what we're getting from Pace for the buses, though.
We don't pay that figure.
I know that.
So I can't tell you what that is.
Well, she kind of come up with a figure, you know, that,
But that's not our cost, Bob. It might be another cost from sales tax or another entity, but it's not our cost. It's not what we're paying out.
but if somebody asks us what those rides cost, we can't tell them the true cost unless we know that's factored in there.
I'm sorry, this is the true cost to the
For the
township,
township.
for the township taxpayer. If you wanna, I wouldn't even know where to start with that. We'd have to,
Okay.
and those are my understanding is all those transportation dollars are sales tax dollars for the most part. Not,
Well,
yeah.
I'm just talking about the seniors are getting one heck of a buy on that bus ride.
Mhm.
I don't care
Sure.
what it is, I don't care, a tax is a tax, no matter where it comes from.
I agree with you, but
And,
if we
to
give,
me, your figure does not give the true cost of what that ride is for donation.
the only true cost I can give you is the exact dollars we're spending out of the township. That's the true cost I can give you. That's the only cost I have.
So on the category key here, what does nonprofit mean? You got 23% going there.
They might be going to the senior service place, they might be going to,
It's on there.
it's on, all the trips are on here. They might be going to, hospital is considered a nonprofit, I don't know if we separated
No.
that.
But
We separated that.
does that include coming here to senior services on a
Yes.
property here?
Yes, it would.
That's part of that right in there.
Yes, it would.
It is categorized on the next page. So all your not-for-profit are Fish Food Pantry, Mchenry Villa, Pioneer Center, Rosecrans, and Senior Services. And all the rides are broken down.
And some of those rides are going to work for people, as you can see on the one page there,
Yeah, that one falls under the W.
under the W.
And then the restaurant one on that's a questionable too. Why would we be taking them to a restaurant?
We by law have, because we're ADA transportation, we have to take them any trip that they want to go. We can't limit where we're taking people.
And that's because of the grants, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And which grant is it?
Well, that would be with the PACE grant, or the PACE agreement first of all, because we have to abide by ADA guidelines running a transportation system.
So does that mean if somebody wants to go to visit a neighbor,
They can.
they can do that?
Yes, they
I
can.
didn't know, I never saw that before.
They actually can.
We've had,
And people do that. Sometimes it might be to go see their son or daughter, or sometimes it might be to see a friend. You know.
Does the NEIA grant require that it be a donation?
Yes, it does.
And is it also true for the McHenry County Senior Grant?
Yes, it is.
So, I realize you're only talking about $1,000, but where does the the rent for the buses, or the lease for the buses come in from Page on this summary?
That's in the total expenses under contractual services.
Under contractual services, total expenses.
All right, so what's the other 29,000 for? Just so we're on the same page for
It's
contractual.
broken down on your budget worksheet.
It's on your budget worksheet.
Hold on one second. Go to page 7. It's vehicle maintenance, cell phones, occupational health, your pay lease, office supplies, operating supplies, and any miscellaneous. That's for contractual claims. Yes.
So the gasoline goes there.
Correct.
Correct.
And as you can see, we've
You'll
changed.
see, it's all broken.
I know, but is it this $12,500 figure that wasn't accurate, or
No,
is it
look
the
at
new
the-
one?
Are you looking on the last column? I've changed it to the new one.
All right, what page? are you
Page
on?
7. Maybe it's still here.
Page 7 of the third draft?
Yes.
Correct. We use what's actually been done as of 2/28,
Okay.
so
And then-
that coincides with,
So that takes care of about $20,000 under contractual services on the summary, and the other 10,000 is the maintenance.
It's right there. You can look right there. Maintenance,
What-
cell phones,
that
occupational.
10,000 is Torma. That's the insurance.
No, the other 10,000 is not accounted for in the contractual
Out of the-
services.
He's saying out of the 264.49 under contractual services would be the other items that are listed there.
Now, for salaries, for personnel, does that also include the health benefits?
Yes,
Yes,
What about the pension benefits?
yes,
yes,
it's all listed there.
all in there.
But that's only the pension burden that we're paying at the time and not down the line, right? So it hasn't been actualized into a real cost.
It has. Well, this would be the cost for this budget year because
Comparing everything.
we just received the figures from IMRF and our costs went down.
How is that possible?
Because IMRF is well-funded and so is Mchenry Township. So if you're like a police pension and you only got 30% of your money in there, you're gonna pay a lot higher rate than so they can help you catch up. We're at 100% or 95% funded. So. Unlike the state, we kept up with what we're supposed to pay.
Well, I have to look at the mileage that's been provided us to see what it really costs. And per ride cost, $15, so a round trip is really double that, right?
That's one-way ride, yes. So it would be 30.
But it could actually be more if these people do this hopscotch situation of multiple destinations.
It's $15 per trip, okay? We want to put it that way.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
But each time they take a trip, they don't just pay maybe we might misunderstand here. When they get on the first time, let's say to go to that Chase Bank, they pay their $1 or whatever right now, okay? When they go to take another trip, they gotta pay another $1.
whoa, they don't gotta pay anything.
No,
Okay.
but they-
We're requested to pay another $1.
Well, I think we have to use precise language here.
That's fine.
They would have to on the McRide program, right? For sure, they've got to pay.
They have to pay on the McRae program, that's a different program.
All right, so I can see how people would say, well, I already paid $1, and just a continuation of my thing, and I missed a stopover on it. Now, you have the total number of rides for, and this is 2018, right?
This was 2018, yes. We took the calendar year to do it.
Are there times when all 4 buses are being utilized?
Yes.
Okay. Now, about a quarter of the rides are to here, by my estimation, to the senior center.
Got 125
120,000.
out of 1141.
That's not a quarter.
No. I did.
Out of 1,141 trips, you've only got 125 going there.
Why is that so important? The rides.
Because you're trying to get a breakdown of the cost and where these things are
The
actually
fact of the
going.
matter is, there's fixed costs already that,
That aren't included, right?
well.
Like the depreciation.
The drivers get paid by the hour, so why would it matter how many rides they do? The only thing that changes is how much gas you're using. The fixed costs are, the drivers get paid by the hour, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So why would it matter how many rides here? How many
So the
rides?
Sunday, is it overtime considered?
No, we rotate a schedule, so there's no overtime on Sunday. And at some point in time, before June, Sundays will be eliminated because McRae didn't used to do that. They're starting to do that now, so we will eliminate that.
In the spring?
I'm going to say by June 1st. The only time we pay overtime, Steve, it does occasionally happen. A driver gets scheduled. Our biggest problem is dialysis. Sometimes a person gets taken to dialysis, let's say at 2 o'clock. We're supposed to pick them up at 3:30, let's say, is what's the schedule. But they're not done with dialysis until 4 o'clock. So unfortunately, sometimes we can't leave them stranded. We have to wait until they're done to take them home. So occasionally that creates some overtime.
So in a given month, take January, for instance, of this year, approximately 500 people, 500 round trips were made, 550 round trips were made.
Where are you looking, Steve?
Under your summary on the first page, January 2019,
For April.
January of this year.
1,090.
Right.
Say that figure again, Steve.
1,090 for.
1,090 one-way trips, so you divide that by 2 for double trips, yeah.
Okay, about 30% are disabled trips.
Correct.
Okay, so we're talking about 550 some or 530, whatever it is, single rides, round trips rather. Which would translate into how many separate people are taking it.
That's where we're getting confused. Is it one-way trips or round trips?
It's one-way trips.
Okay. So it's 550 approximately round trips, knowing that there are some people are just going to take, a few people will just take a one-way somehow, and they'll get back on their own.
That does happen, yes.
Okay, so how many separate people does this actually translate to?
We have a list somewhere. I was bringing that.
I don't think we have that client list.
But I do have I don't have the list with me, Steve, but we do have that number.
We do have that.
But the average person takes it probably once a week.
No,
Some multiple.
some are taking it multiple times per week.
Okay. So that gets us down to approximately 100 people using the bus line. Because these are monthly figures.
don't have that figure with me. I can get it for you.
You don't keep a tab of the names that are of the people who are using this, they're just a number?
No, we
No,
do.
we have
We have names, but I would think that might be privileged information. I do have names.
All right, well, I'm not trying to find the identities of the people.
No, we just.
I'm just
want
trying to
the
find
people.
how many separate individual people are using this line to figure out its efficiency.
We may have that.
Wait, we'll run. I think we do have one.
So we're talking really about 125 different people using it every month?
No, off the top of my head, it's usually around 300 people a month using it, I believe. But let's get the figures and look. Now, some of those may be one time. You're right. No. Bob, I think you're listening. I'm hearing you. What? Taxpayer cost is $185,206.
No, I'm just telling Mike, no, if you took the true cost
Oh,
of the grant money,
the grant money's in
if
there.
you take the, if I take the 239, subtract the fair money, I get 231,425. To me, a taxpayer cost, because grant money is taxpayer money. So if you divide the rise into 231, it's gonna come above 15, your $15 figure comes out of just dividing it from the 185, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it does, but those are dollars that I'm receiving. Those are revenues.
I know, but I'm just.
I understand what you're saying.
I'm gonna come out with what I think, even without going into the costs that we're missing on those $55,000-$60,000 buses that we rent for $100, which you couldn't do that, for the money there, so you could probably triple that cost there. But anyway, I look at this is that the seniors are paying $8,360, but the taxpayer cost for that is $231,425.
I would disagree with you. Those grants are in there, and yes, you're going to say those are taxpayer money. They are, okay?
Yes.
But the Mchenry County Senior Grant, for example, okay? If we don't apply for that, we don't take it, your taxes aren't going down. They're just going to redistribute it somewhere else.
Yeah, I know, but I
In the
just.
county, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying that's a revenue. I'm sorry. It is a revenue to us. I would disagree with you. I would disagree with you, and I believe an accountant would disagree with you.
I think an accountant would have a whole different idea of how much the true cost is, because this is not a cost accounting situation, okay? This is a specialized thing the township has hooked up to justify the bus service, okay? Let's be honest about it.
No, let's not be honest. I disagree with you, Steve.
Let's not be honest.
Let's be honest. That's not what I meant. Let's be honest about it. You're not being honest about it. You're putting your spin on this, okay? And you're welcome to do that, but the citizens of Mchenry Township, they came here and talked to you. First of all, the senior citizens had a advisory committee, and they're the ones that asked for this service, and that's how it started, okay? It was asked for by the residents.
It was asked for by certain residents, okay? This wasn't put on a referendum or anything.
No,
all
it
right?
was not put on a referendum. It does not have to be put on a referendum. Let's not go there.
Well, let's try and add some rationality to the discussion. If the township has what, 49,000 residents?
49,000, yes. So you're going to say this is a very small percentage of those residents. That's correct, that are actually using it. I will agree with you. But what you're not taking into account is the sons, daughters, mothers, etc., who rely on this service for their elderly and disabled. So there's more than the people that are actually riding it that are dependent upon the service.
Did you get a number of the actual people?
We had 109 people for the month of February.
All right, you mean 109 different people who may have taken, some may have
These are
taken as many as 20
individual,
rides.
non-duplicated, unduplicated people.
Debbie, could you repeat what you said? Because you
109 unduplicated people for the month of February.
Okay.
And that's where,
from this year was last year.
Correct.
and I know,
2019.
and where I'm getting my 300 figure, it's about, I have to quote it, 325 or less than 400 are unduplicated riders for the whole year.
Well, using the figure of 48,500 for the, between 48 and 49,000 people in the township, they actually live in the township, okay? This isn't even taxpayers, this is the total population.
That's correct, it wouldn't necessarily be taxpayers.
If you divide that by, take this month, that Debbie came up with 109. So we're talking about 0.00224% of the population of the township using this service.
In a given month.
Right, which I presume is a larger month because it's the winter. You seem to have more rides in the winter months than you do in the summer. Okay?
What was your figure, Steve? 0.0 what?
0.002247.
Was it 3 zeros or 2 zeros?
2.
2 zeros, 2 4?
2 decimal points. And we're talking about a service which is nearly 100% duplicated by McBride.
I disagree with that, it's not 100% duplicated.
I said nearly, because
It's not even nearly.
well, the only difference is that when these people go to stores and stuff, their stuff is carried, or it goes into their driveway, right?
Goes into their driveway, McBride will not do that.
Right, because of the liability, which somehow the township takes because they're getting insurance that seems to be way out of line with what a normal commercial enterprise would have to pay.
Because we have a mutual insurance company that is a very good deal for us.
Well, those figures are astonishing, okay? You're putting on 100,000 miles of bus traffic with 4 separate buses carrying disabled and elderly people, as many as possibly 14, I believe is the limit.
With the driver.
And you're only paying $250 a year in insurance for that? And they're going out on the regular road?
Where are you getting $250 a year?
You said it was $1,000.
You just said $250, oh, per bus you're
Right,
okay.
per bus.
Yes, that is the figures from our insurance company,
Yeah.
Steve, that's what we're paying. Don't tell me that that's what they are.
Well,
If you think they're too cheap, I can't help that, that's what they
Did
are.
you inquire?
I don't think they're cheap.
I did. I followed up with the insurance company and I got them like Friday the information, so I'll have more detail on it by next meeting. But they did send me all the policy information like Friday. So the one lady who was on the initial email, she was not in. They asked for somebody else, they forwarded it to somebody else, and finally she got the information.
So we'll have something next month.
Absolutely.
So everybody heard that Jim handled the insurance on it, he went to the insurance company, I gave him permission to get all the information that you requested, and it will be here by next month.
Well, I'm not gonna be here next Monday, we're not.
Oh, we aren't having a meeting next
Yeah.
Monday.
Tuesday, is it Tuesday?
I scheduled it for Tuesday, it's for open for discussion. Tuesday, well, we'll get to that later.
Okay.
I believe we also asked for a log of the fill-ups for the vehicles.
It's there. Oh, the logs? I'm not, if you want the logs, you can come into the office and review them. There's hundreds of pages. Okay? Anytime you want to come see those documents, come in. I'm not going to photocopy all those documents.
Is this a breakdown?
This is a breakdown of everything. Of gallons, of miles, and miles per gallon for all the areas you asked for. For the buses, for the parks, and for the assessor. There are trip logs that coincide with all this. You're welcome to come in and take a look at them. There's backup for everything. So, yes, I did give you that information. we broke down the gas there by the average cost per month. That's how we determined the cost. Yeah, the number on the top there of the buses is the actual number of the bus. There's 4 of them. Questions regarding that?
Are there plans to get more buses?
We are planning to get rid of, we own one bus ourselves that we've owned for years. We're planning on getting rid of that and getting another van which we could lease for $100 a month for our back. We have to have a backup if one of them goes down.
So which bus is it that we own?
We own, it's out here, I don't.
So it's not on these figures?
It's not on these. We rarely use it if ever. But if something would break down, we have to have a backup to be able to pick up. And it's rather old and it's beyond its useful life. But it does have a sale value. We would sell it for whatever we could get for
it. If someone is a senior and a disabled, how are they broken down on the list?
It's a very good question. I don't have an answer for you for that. I will find out. Because they could be both. And I don't know if we're tracking them correctly. In other words, a senior could be in a wheelchair. Are we counting them also as disabled? I don't know.
Well, if that's the case, then the total number of trips is screwed up.
No. The trips are right. I may be categorizing them wrong by this. Maybe a senior should be out of senior and being disabled is what I'm saying, and not seniors. See what I'm saying?
Either show up on one list or the other.
They might be showing up on the wrong list of where they're counted, but the trips are right.
The trips are correct.
Trips are correct.
Categorized.
We might be categorizing disabled and senior. Obviously, they're a senior, but are we also calling them disabled? I don't know that we are, and that's something I need to find out.
Well, the disabled plus seniors precisely matches the number of trips for each month. So,
what I'm saying, Steve, is maybe I have them as a senior, but maybe they are really disabled and I shouldn't be counting them in both. Or maybe I'm not counting them as, whatever.
well, they can't be counted in both.
Correct, that's what I'm saying. And I'm saying, so you have a clear figure. I may have them counted as seniors, but they're also disabled. And I may not have them in the disabled category, and I should take them out of the senior category, is what I'm saying.
To do that, you'd have to have 3 categories.
Right, I would need 3 categories.
That just complicates
I would need
everything.
senior,
Disabled,
senior disabled. I don't have a senior disabled category is what I should have, you're correct.
Well, what led to my question was, are these disabled people not seniors, is what it was?
Some are, some definitely are. Some definitely are, yes. Yes.
Okay.
We have people that, are not seniors that have had strokes or are physically disabled, whatever, for whatever the reason, and they do also write, yes. Yes, my disabled could be much higher if I go back and look at senior disabled, the 3rd category, which I don't think we'd really track.
And then some churches are listed, other ones aren't. So I take it that you'll go to any church, right?
We will certainly go to any church. Those are the only ones that have been requested.
And the buses all use regular fuel, not diesel, right?
Buses are all gas, yes. And as you heard from Mary Donner, the PACE program does not provide diesel buses in this configuration.
So I'm just trying to get an understanding of how this system works. There's some kind of a sheet or something given out to the driver
Okay,
for the pickups.
yes. What happens is, after they register here, the first time that we declare they're able to ride, they call here one time. Then they call the PACE Dispatch Center, which we have an agreement with. Then they put them into the system. Through a computer, we get a schedule that PACE has created based upon their algorithm. And then our person here takes a look at that and makes sure that schedule makes sense. He might rearrange it based upon proximity, etc. And then we have a sheet that the drivers get every day for their pickups and drop-off. So each bus has a sheet for that.
So when the people schedule the 24 hours in advance, they have to say their stops. If they're not going to a single destination, they have to list them all out.
Yes, they do.
And then it's figured out by the township if they're going to remain there for their, while they go in for their thing.
It would depend upon scheduling that day, yes. I mean, if we know they're just running in and out, it's gonna be 2 to 5 minutes. Most likely that bus will stay in. But if they're gonna be gone for half an hour, the bus may have to go somewhere else and pick up somebody else, and then a different bus might be closer to that area later to pick them up. You know, it depends.
And the Mchenry Senior Express program is more competent as far as these localized algorithms go than
We very much are. PACE will admit to you that their system is outdated, but it's the one they have and the one they use.
Okay.
We've been adding rides. Rides have been going up in the last year without increasing drivers, so we're being more efficient with the number of rides, how we're scheduling those rides.
Yes, I noticed that. So there's never a time when a senior will be, or a disabled will be left at some location.
We will never leave the senior or disabled at some location. Now, what can happen, and we would tell them that, let's say they have to go somewhere at 3 o'clock and they're not gonna be done till 5 or 6 o'clock. We will tell them we can't pick them up then, and then they would have to make other arrangements. They know that going into it. But if someone's supposed to be picked up at 3:30 or so and they're not ready, we're gonna wait for them. If we told them we're gonna be right.
So with the elimination of Sunday service, have you factored that into the
I have-
budget?
I have not. It'll decrease the cost, obviously. I have not factored that in. We don't have that many rides on Sunday. I think maybe we have
I think it's 35 a month.
35 a month for Sundays, so approximately. So that will come off. So there'll be less rides, and the cost will go down too because there'll be less gas, less everything. I did not factor that in because we're not
103 for the month of February.
on Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're comfortable with the budgeting, the donations at that amount for next year?
At that amount for next year, right? Yes, and then the following year, the plan will be to raise to another $1.
So the contingency for the town budget for 1920, Is that an increase to 50,000? On
What page
on
are you
page
on?
number 2.
No, it's not an increase. When we did the first draft, we did not take out the contingency that's separated, so we had to change the number. I had the total for admin with the 50 included. I had 794, and it should have been 744 because 50,000 was taken out.
It wasn't pulled out. It was,
I didn't
it was,
pull it out.
It was in the original number, but it hasn't changed now.
It hasn't changed.
And it's been that for a number of years. And we, up until this year, I don't think we've exceeded it, but we've gotten close this year. Most years we,
That's just, it changed from first
Right.
draft to second draft.
And what, John expected to have it down to the penny, but what's an approximate reserve that you have now for the town?
approximate reserve now is a little over 2 years, I believe.
We can't have any more than 2.5 reserve period.
It may be, well,
But there has been, if there's anything in there regarding capital improvements, whether you're gonna do something to the project, or you're gonna do something to your building, if you're gonna do something with your computer systems and things like that, so if there's any capital reserves.
and also, just so you realize, last year we spent down over about $1 million because of the abatement we did. This year, because of the levy that you set in the current form, we would again spend down about $900,000 out of that.
900,000?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the amount of reserve, approximately? No.
You said a little over 2 million, right? Is that what you said?
No, reserve over 2 years. I
Over
said.
2 years.
I think it's.
Oh, over 2 years, you said.
I'll get that.
Jim can get the exact number. He has that. But it's gone down. It'll be, and that's not going to be accurate because we spent it down this year. So.
We'll know exact.
We won't know until the audit, but.
March 30th will be your cutoff.
Right.
Right, so we would know that in April.
We'll know in April the exact number because it's come down this
Because
year.
that's gonna change.
It's
your-
changed.
That'll all change.
It's all gonna change. It's gonna be under 2 years.
Yeah, we will.
They're probably like 1.5 years by the time we get done.
And just to save time, the reserve for the road district would be about the same as that?
Oh, no, there's much less, much less.
So, can you just give us an idea of that?
Yeah, I was gonna actually show it to you. I think right now in the permanent hard road, I was just looking, I just bought the permanent hard road budget today to go over, but the permanent hard road has right around less than 400,000 in it. And the annual budget is about 1.4. Wait, yeah, 1.6, sorry.
So it's about 25% approximately.
Yeah.
And then the road and bridge fund?
I'd have to look at it. I think that was $1 million on 1.3, or 1 point, wait, it's, we levy, let me take that back. 1.4 is the permanent hard road levy, 1.6 is the general road and bridge. We give about 500,000 back of that, 550 to the municipalities. So call it just 1.5 or 1.1 million a year, and we have, I believe, just right around $1 million in reserves there, just under a year's.
And in your capacity as the road district commissioner, you can put the reserve of one into the other if need be?
I believe you could. I take that back. I am not positive we could switch from one fund to the other.
I
Actually,
don't know
I think
that
we
you-
talked about that. I don't believe we can.
I don't think you can.
Without,
proper- without-
like our annual meeting, they could do something like that if they wanted.
Right, they could at an annual meeting change it if they so decided, but they cannot, you cannot switch from one fund to the other.
So the proper word would be that we cannot commingle the funds?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fair. That'd be fair. Yeah.
But there is flexibility in what's paid out of each fund too, you know. So there's some flexibility to that. We are switching some of our expenses from one to the other to help balance it out more.
Okay,
I've had
do we want to move on to the road commissioner now?
well, I'd like to ask a question about dialysis. Is there any physical restraints on the bus service as far as like if somebody's has to be transported in a gurney?
I'm sorry, we wouldn't do that. They'd have to be in a wheelchair, be ambulatory as they
The
call it.
worst it could be is a wheelchair.
Yes, yes, they'd have to be ambulatory. We're not like an ambulance. We're not gonna transport somebody to here. And that is also ruled by all the transportation laws, you know, that they have to be ambulatory. I believe it says that, right?
So, the way this is broken down, Pioneer Center is its own section on the nonprofit.
Correct. We have a few disabled clients that ride the Pioneer Center daily.
Pioneer Center has its own bus service, correct?
Pioneer Center does not have its own bus service.
Did they ever have one?
They did at one time. Years ago. They contract with someone to provide I believe they're contracted with Pace to provide a service, which they pay a great deal of money for.
Now, you heard the lady that came in from the representative of Pace said that they really don't hire the drivers. They're all on contract from a separate outfit, right? That's why they're the entries of fines for when they didn't.
Yes. Well, Pace is subs that out to a third company and run it for them in McHenry County.
Have you looked at doing that for the bus service here?
No, we have not. We could look at that.
Because they're obviously doing it to save money, right?
I don't know if they're doing it to save money. They don't have the manpower out here to do it, so they hired a service to do it for them. I know it's quite expensive, but we could look into it. I know it's quite expensive to contract with them, and they won't do it. You'll have to pay a lot of the costs. They have to, that's what they require Pioneer to do. Pioneer pays a great deal of money for them to contract with them. But it's certainly something we could look into.
The Ringwood School notation for disabled senior work on page. Pages aren't numbered, but that would be page 4.
All those work programs are probably a disabled person that has a job there. It is. That's what it is. And so we're taking them to work.
And I'm just trying to figure out if they're kids that need it, or it's going to the school itself.
No, it's not a kid going to the school. It is someone working at the school in some capacity. Probably a janitor, the cafeteria. I don't know exactly, but they have a job at that school. And all those are that. You can see they're Goodwill, Habitat, Hampton Inn, Johnsburg High School, Pink Dork Restaurant.
And then this notation of 4 rides to the Edgebrook Elementary School, would that be the same? Should that be in the other category than W? Is a disabled person, not a child?
that may not, it's a miscellaneous, don't know, that could be a disabled parent going to visit the teacher at the school. I don't know what that is, Steve.
Okay, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out.
Yeah.
That could be even a grandparent going to,
It could be
an
a,
event.
it could be a grandparent going to an event at the school that they,
See their grandchildren.
see their grandchildren. Right.
Okay. So then there'll be one more final division
Mhm.
that will include the actual 2018-19 actual expenses.
At the end of this,
Right.
yes, yeah, we can do one more with the actual, yes.
All right. And any other changes that you see fit to put in?
Sure, we will bring those back in a final, so we won't bring it back another copy until after we have those figures. How's that? For the year end. All right, if nothing else being heard there, then
One more.
go ahead, go ahead.
The churches, as you go to on Sunday,
Mhm.
I find it interesting that neither St. Mary's nor St. Pat's has any riders.
And I'll tell you why that is. I know why that is. Most of these people are at like Heritage Woods or one of those retirement places. And what has happened is they all know each other, so they've all decided to go to Holy Apostles. And I know this happened because they've called in and they say, "Where's my friend going?" I go, "Holy Apostles." "Oh, then I want to go there too." So they tend to stick in a group. That's why that is.
Well, you know those Catholics.
Yeah, there you go.
How they are.
Easy.
Well, Heritage Woods has its own bus service.
I don't know that they do. I don't know that any,
I've seen
They
it.
have a bus service,
Okay.
but I don't know.
I don't know that it runs all the time.
I don't know what it-
It's pretty limited, I think, if they do have.
I have a question. So is there, because I'm, I started back in December thinking about a budget that would take in the mandated services, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I still want to bring that up and get that issue. Is the next meeting we get together, is that the time to bring that up? How do we work
Well,
in that situation? And I got some other things
My-
that I want to suggest that we stop out of the budget too, that we haven't talked about. for a
Okay,
while.
well, my opinion would be, why don't we wait until we get the final numbers back in April and see what those actually are before we decide. Once we know what we have, then we can decide where we're going. Does that make sense to you?
So wait, so I'm still questioning things like mosquito abatement, $60-some
Okay,
thousand
well,
dollars.
mosquito abatement, we do have a contract
Contract.
for, I think, 2 more years.
2 more years.
We'll find, and then after that time, we can decide not to do it if we want.
So then we'd have to figure it in this year's budget, but that would not be something we could do on the.
We could not cut it in this year, in this year's
So
budget.
that had to come, okay, very good.
Okay?
Okay.
So that's one of the
It's not,
It's just a
that's not intergovernmental, that's a contract.
It's a contract. We said, and we talked about whether we have to honor all those contracts. I
Right.
remember saying that.
That's a contract. And we will get you that contract so you can look at it.
And find out if it's 2 years.
We will. I believe it
That's the
is.
only one I
So that contract was entered into by a prior board or what?
Was this for
I think it
first
was this
year?
board, first year, I think, we
First
entered
year.
into that contract.
I don't remember. Not with me. Maybe it was. I don't remember.
I
It
think
could have
we-
been.
I
It
think
could
we
have been.
did.
When we were in the kitchen,
Huh?
when we did the budget,
Was it?
up in
Could
the
have been.
kitchen.
Yeah, I think we did, yeah. So it was, we believe it was entered by this board, Steve.
Okay.
Would have been in the first year.
So for Historical Society, that's $1,000. I don't, my position is that we don't put that money there. So I should hold those figures off until April, is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, until we get these other figures back and see what we've actually expended. And then I would bring those at that time, and then we can start to look at those.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So contingency, the supervisor can just spend whatever he wants out of that.
Has to be on-
It can go into anything that is any expenditure of the town.
It could, but you'll see that you'd be happy to review what's been spent in the past years. It's only done in the case of emergency normally.
Well, if we have this reserve, why do we need a contingency?
Because it has to be in the budget.
You can't spend it unless it's budgeted and appropriated. So even if you have funds, excess funds, the only way you can spend it if it's budget appropriated. And the only way you can do that is by either putting a line item, a very specific item, and or having a contingent item. So you want to make sure if you are going to spend any funds, that you have them spelled out in your budget appropriation ordinance. If you don't, and then those aren't accounted for, and you exceed those amounts, you either have to do one of two things. You either have to then borrow from one of the line items. You can't borrow from different funds altogether, but you can go from line items up to 10%, and or amend your budget appropriation, which we have to go through the process again of publishing and having a notice
And having a public meeting.
I mean, so you have options.
So how bound is the supervisor to the budget?
The board is bound to it.
The board and myself are bound to it.
Once we approve the budget, then,
I have to stay within the budget.
then, right.
Yes, I
The
do.
same with the road district. or
I do.
assessor.
I have to stay with whatever within
This
this
is our time.
document.
Right, to be heard right now, the budget.
Well, the problem is
I cannot take-
these shifting funds,
I
they come
cannot,
out of the road district's budget into yours for like the
Can't do that.
gasoline.
No, I don't,
Cannot do that.
no, I don't sound that could be possible.
no, it's not possible.
No.
Well, it seems the parks are getting short, the park district under your budget was
No,
getting
that's part
short.
of his.
You're correct, but it's all one budget overall, but you're right, and we're going to change that and pay them exactly what our fuel costs are. Well, if we decide to do that as a board.
Is that 19,000?
Yes, that's the actual cost for last year. We changed it to show that, what you did point out, Steve, that yes, the parks is getting shortchanged and the buses weren't paying enough. We're changing that. And the assessors didn't have a line item for it, and we put it in theirs.
Those changes have been made on the
Okay. But now, I'm wondering if there are any other things like that that are coming out of the road district to
No, none.
the town.
None. We only had those two intergovernmental agreements with the road district, that's it. None.
All right, so in consideration of the next year's budget, there are no new intergovernmental agreements that you're contemplating?
At this time, no.
Or any other contracts?
Any new contracts? No. None that we're talking about.
I have a question. The road commissioner can enter the intergovernmental agreements on his own. Can you do that you're saying here without board approval?
I'd have to refer to Mr. Martell on that, I don't know.
I can't, in yes, and to your first part regarding the road commissioner, as to the supervisor, no, and I can't, unless there's something out there that I can't think of at this moment, but it would require the board's approval, authorizing the supervisor to sign.
So, and if we would have one, you'd have to approve it at a board meeting.
I don't like that. I thought nobody was saying that.
Well, I'm just trying to get out there surprises that we get.
No, there's no surprises, Steve, that we're anticipating at this time.
Okay. And are there any special grants the township may be getting or is applied for? That would affect next year's budget.
Well, there would be those bus grants that we have to start applying for when they expire at the end of, one is October 1st and one is December 31st, I believe, or December 1st. So it is going to be time within the next month or two to apply for those.
And those are the only ones?
Those are the only ones.
What about grants the township is contemplating giving out?
That's under emergency assistance, and that would be up to my preview at the time. Right now, I'm not planning on it.
Has this diaper bank controversy been resolved?
No, it has not been resolved.
So then, what does that mean? If the 20,000 went to these 4 separate entities under the emergency assistance, and the diaper bank is considered non-viable for whatever reason, then there are going to be more grants.
I haven't decided if I'm gonna do that again or not at this point in time. And I don't know, if we're gonna have to check if there's the need next year to do that.
All right, so where does that go in as far as the third revised town draft budget?
It's under GA. It's just under
Page
the,
13 and 14.
So the telephones that the bus drivers have, that's included in the for the Senior Express
yes,
program?
it's in the budget, you saw it, it's in the contractuals, I believe.
Okay. So then some of these things are really in multiple areas. Like for example, the telephones. Part of the telephone is solely for the Senior Express and part is solely for other aspects of the township.
Telephone is split out by where it's being
By
used,
department.
by department where it's being used.
We get one bill, we split it out.
Okay.
We split it out by the usage.
In fact, that's how all the bills are split up.
Correct,
Correct.
correct.
By the usage.
By the department or the usage, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions on this?
I'm
Yes,
good.
are we good for now? Okay, let's move on to the road commissioner's budget.
Can I just read this before we get started? Let's see if I'm right or wrong on this. It says, "The road commissioner independent. The board of trustees or highway board is not the boss of the highway commissioner. You cannot tell them how to run their offices. It has no authority over how the commission maintains the roads, nor who they hire to work, nor over the firing of workers, provided that they remain within their budget." And the Attorney General's opinion, is that pretty much what we're dealing with here, for the road commission budget?
Can you read that one more time?
Just here, yeah. I just went through all my papers I got about that, on the bottom part there, Jen.
There was a trustee that wrote. That would be a true statement. This opinion appears to be a 1976 opinion from the Attorney General. I can get a copy of that. I may have seen a copy of that before, but that would be a fair statement. The one thing that this board does and does have the control and authority is you do approve the budget. I mean, he brings it, you guys approve the budget appropriation ordinance, he then operates, but the highway commissioner has the ability to make the decisions relative to those line items and the spending of those funds.
And that was my total understanding, and I just wanted to say that so the rest of the board realized that as elected officials, as trustees, this is what you've been elected for, to go over that budget, because once that budget transfers over there, that's complete control of the road commission. Just want to make that clear. Thank you.
That would be a true statement.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim, you have the floor.
We, if it's all right with you, we're gonna concentrate on the permanent hard road budget. We have two budgets, the permanent hard road and then the general road and bridge. Permanent hard road covers basically two broad things. One is our construction costs for our roads, whatever we're doing. The second is the salaries or the payroll for the employees, other than the administrative type. And we're making a little bit of a change on that this year just because of the difference in reserves from the two funds, and I'll explain that when we get a little further along, okay? So the first thing I want to pass out is just a copy of the tax computation report. It shows how much money we get and then how we redistribute some of it. There's 8 copies here. You just pass it around. I thought you would find it useful just to see what money goes where as far as how much goes into the permanent hard road. The second thing is we emailed you the permanent hard road, but this is a little bit wider. It's 11 by 17, and it includes one more year of budgeting number or of previous year numbers. So if you'll pass that around real quick, okay? And the permanent hard road is a shorter one. It's a little easier. It's a little less a lot less information in it than the other, so I thought we would go through here first. The next sheet, there's one sheet here, and what this permanent hard road, what this sheet is.
Shall I leave one for the clerk?
Yeah, that'd be great, thanks. This next sheet just lists what our projects are. One of our biggest line items is construction this next year, and it's $1.9 million. And this just lists what projects there are. This one sheet. That's the only thing that's any value on that sheet. And I'll go through that when I get to it, okay? This next sheet is just our statement of accounts from last year to this year, our statement of assets from last year to this year. You had asked about what our reserves are. This gives you a pretty good idea of what our reserves are. So we'll pass that around, just so that you see that we have the money, because we're spending more than we're taking in this year by over $100,000. You have to see that the money is there in order to be able to spend that. That makes sense.
All right, so what should we label the positions?
Oh, that's road construction projects. How does that sound? Okay. The next sheet I'm going to pass out is just to give you an idea. A big issue has been with the township is actually I don't need any of these. I got my own copy. This sheet here lists the non-dedicated roads that we're entering into the county in an intergovernmental agreement to take over 7.7 miles. If you remember if you're familiar with it, there's a lot of non-dedicated roads in the county, especially in Mchenry Township. They took over 7.7 miles in McHenry County or McHenry Township. We've come to an agreement with them on a shared cost to upgrade those roads and turn them over to the township. This gives you a list of the roads or the subdivisions they're in, the mileage, the amount the county will be contributing, what the total cost is, and what years we're tentatively planning on doing it. Okay?
Is this a one-year contract?
It's a 3-year contract.
3-year contract?
Yes. We have 3 years to upgrade these projects.
This is for the non-dedicated roads.
Those are county roads right now that will be turned over to us that are non-dedicated roads.
I just did it. That's only when he had extra copies that he knew. But the rest of them didn't get. I get extra, I'll give them to you.
When are they actually turned over to the township?
Once the county, at last Tuesday's board meeting, the county approved the IGA to go ahead with it. So the county board approved it, then the county board chairman and the clerk will sign off, and then they'll go through the process with IDOT of turning the roads over to us. So I suspect that'll happen over the next month or so. I don't know the exact time frame.
So they're turned over to us before they're actually completed?
Yes.
Why is that? It would seem to me that they'd be turned over to us when they were finally, finished, not beforehand. So
Because half a dozen of one and 6 of the other, to be completely honest with you. I don't, they're going to pay us to do the improvements. It gives us flexibility in what improvements we do, and they've given us $450,000 a mile to accomplish that.
So does that mean before they're actually finished, somewhere in this 3-year
Yes.
program, you have to plow and everything else?
We will.
Even though they're not even done,
Yes.
and they're not officially upgraded?
They will not be officially upgraded yet.
And I'm wondering if that's, the whole thing is they have to be upgraded before you'll do any work ordinarily, right?
That was what the original plan was. The project was stalled. If you know the history of the project was stalled because the county says that it only cost, the county board at the time said it only cost, not the county board, the transportation committee said they think that it shouldn't cost any more than $350,000 a mile to fix the roads. We disagreed with that. They said, too bad, we'll bring them in and we'll do it ourselves and maintain it ourselves. It makes no sense from a taxpayer standpoint for them to do that, but they decided to do it anyway. At the time, as I said previously, I felt what we should have done was put into place, for instance, a 20-year program to bring all these roads in, upgrade those roads with county funds, township funds, and association funds or resident funds in that association. They didn't like that idea, they pushed it forward, and they ended up with 20-some miles. They rounded off to 24 miles throughout the county, and as a result, that's when Indian Ridge went in. When we did Indian Ridge, they realized that that was a mistake on their part, because Indian Ridge cost substantially more than $350,000. It's probably the toughest subdivision there is out there to upgrade.
$1 million a mile, isn't it?
Yeah, 900, something like that, yeah. I think it was 8 something to be, but it was substantial, obviously
So
substantial.
who picked up the difference?
The county paid the whole thing.
But of this $450,000 now, though, the rest of these roads are gonna cost more than that too. That means the township will pick up the difference?
The township, let me explain my thinking. As I said previously, I think it should be somewhat of a shared cost. I anticipate on the average that we will spend somewhere around $550,000 in construction costs. So I am estimated that the township will have $100,000 in construction costs, in addition to the county's $450,000. Now that's an average over all of the roads. For instance, we have the simpler one, which is it's called Wooded Shores up past Dusty's there. They've maintained their roads very well. I don't think that they'll cost $450,000 a mile.
I agree.
Then we have Lookout Point, which is very much similar to Indian Ridge. So those are going to go up the other direction. So I believe that it'll be on the average will be contributing about $100,000 a mile over the next 3 years.
For 7 miles.
7 miles, yes.
So it translates out something on the order of 700,000.
Sure. Yeah, probably 800 by the time. We have engineering and surveying and construction fees in there too. That adds about another 10 to 15% of the total construction costs.
So in the old days, the private parties, the associations would have had to build, to upgrade their roads in order for the township to take it over.
In the olden days, the associations would have had to upgrade their roads to a certain extent, and then the county would then come in and surface those roads as the last step. And then it would be taken over by the county or by the township.
And by olden days, how long ago was that?
Not 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and before. There wasn't much done recently, because all the easy roads were done back versus when Chuck and Jersey was here. There was a good deal of roads done in the Wonder Lake area back then. But since that time, Indian Ridge is not an easy fix. You can see that. And a lot of those roads are like that.
So what's their share? None.
There is not a share on their part. Their argument will be that we've been paying taxes to the county or to the township for the last 100 years or whatever. That's what their argument will be. And to some degree, there is some truth to that. Let's be honest. So there is some truth to that. So it's a bit of a balancing act. There's probably no right or wrong. There's let's move forward, let's get these in the township where they should be and get them fixed and move on.
When I get that subject in the barbershop with people coming to my barbershop, whether they're customers or not, is the fact is that those people that are making that argument never pay for infrastructure on those roads because they're just summer type community with gravel type thrown out. Most of those roads weren't even on the roadway. And if you go to a new area that's constructed now, you have infrastructure that probably cost you, $30,000 for a lot for infrastructure for that, whatever it is. So those people, when they come, we hear it here, and when the Belgium gets up here and says that, well, they're paying, that's not a true statement, okay?
Well, there are two sides to that, though, because, and you brought it up in other ways, and I'm glad to have that discussion with you. They are paying taxes to the township, and they're not getting their roads plowed. Similar to municipal people like you and I, we're in municipalities, we pay more than people that live in the township. That's a different argument. What they're saying though is they are paying funds to, in addition to that, they've had to continue to maintain their roads. Unlike you and I, we pay it to the municipality, and the municipality does it. They've had to pay it themselves and upgrade it. So that's their argument, and we can go around and around and around, and hopefully we will get some funds to do that. We'll engage those people as we go through. I don't know that, but so many of those areas are the lower income areas. They don't have the money to do it. They don't have a means to do it. So this was a way of moving it forward and getting something done.
Well, those same people.
That's an argument we're going.
Those same people that will make that argument about having been paying for all these years, I'm sure when their assessed valuation, or when they go to the marketplace and sell their house, I'm sure they won't turn down the extra money.
No, they won't, but they will be bitching about the taxes going up.
You said $15,000.
And that's what
Figure, but it's
don't
already
quote me on
there,
it.
yeah.
That's what a realtor told me.
Yeah.
But then when you start to see those prices of values of homes going up because of it, because they are already, I'm going to assume over the next couple of years, the assessor will start adjusting those assessments, and their taxes will go up too. So,
Yeah, and their house, when they sell their house, it will go up too.
if they sell their house.
Well, my question is why did the township get stuck? They haven't maintained it before they're even upgraded, and part of the official township network of roads.
It's a compromise agreement to move the project forward.
So
If you want to accomplish something, my goal will be to take care of to bring those roads in. They should be township roads. And this was a means and a mechanism to do it. It was a compromise between us and the county. It was the best deal that I felt that we could make to move the project forward, to have it done.
Why shouldn't they be village roads?
Why shouldn't they be village roads?
This is supposed township roads.
Why shouldn't
Why
these?
shouldn't those roads be village roads?
Well, for many of them, they're not adjacent. They
But
don't
many
want,
are.
two reasons. One,
Okay,
some of them aren't adjacent to municipalities, so they couldn't annex it.
understand that. Many are.
That's one.
Water Lake.
The other half is they don't want to be a part of that municipality.
No, the roads that they want is they want a free trip on those roads without paying for it, is what it really comes down to. That's easy to make that situation, but there's a lot of those people that could very easily go to the village. They don't have to go to the township. But they do know that the township is
Well, I think
offering them.
the opposing argument would be people have annexed to the village with the promise of getting their roads upgraded. Their taxes have went up and they haven't gotten their roads upgraded either.
Who's
So,
that?
just south of, the Hancock area where Extensive, you go south of there, those roads haven't been upgraded and they're in the village of Wonder Lake.
Stan's down there. He's in the village.
I can only
There
tell
we
you
go.
what my friends.
Which subdivision down there is in the village that those roads weren't taken up?
Taken up or
You're,
upgraded?
been improved by
Maintained.
well, first of all, the village
Well,
is,
there's one directly north of Indian Ridge that's in the village of Wonder Lake, that's between Lookout and Indian Ridge. It's in the village of Wonder Lake and the roads are completely falling apart.
Which one is
And they
that?
want to look at
which
the
one is the name
annexing.
of, which one is the name of it?
I think it might be one of the Lookout Point phases. It's the southern part, just north of Salem. Just north of Salem and along the water there.
They're in the village?
They have been annexed into the village.
Then why are you doing the roads?
I'm not doing the roads.
Oh, I thought you said you were doing those roads out there.
No, Lookout Point north of there.
Oh, north
I
of
think
there.
there's two
Okay,
phases.
okay,
There's a phase in between there. That's
I know
in the
exactly
village
what
of
you're talking about.
Village of Wonder
Okay.
Lake. And they were annexed into the village of Wonder Lake. The village of Wonder Lake says, we're not doing anything until you upgrade your roads. We're not doing anything. And now they're stuck between that and a quagmire because they can't get people to agree to spend the money to do an SSA or whatever the case would be. And so nothing happens.
Well, see, that's what we did in subdivision I'm in, Ricker for 1 and 2, where Stan's at.
Yeah,
okay?
we paid $200,000.
And it was only right for us all because I just, when they make their argument, they're wrong, is that we invested in the village to bring those roads up where they should have been. Now our tax dollars take care of those roads. But these people that you're taking care of are getting more than one hell of a gift.
We can go.
It's disturbing.
We talked about going to that meeting.
It's two sides of the coin. There's 2 points of view, and we can go around and around and around, or we can move forward and get something done. That's the bottom line.
Other road commissioners, specifically the larger townships,
Algonquin, Nunda.
Grafton, they're facing the same argument, same
They
problem.
actually have been spending, using their township funds to upgrade those roads over the years. They've been actually helping those people out. And those roads are in much better condition. And a lot of those people don't necessarily even need or want them up. They use their road and bridge and their MFT funds that we started to do now, since I've been here, to maintain those roads. They've been doing it for years. And so those roads are in pretty good shape. Unlike so many of the roads that are in Mchenry Township, because the highway commissioners previously just had a different point of view. So
this 3 years of project, would it be fair to say it's about a third is gonna be done the first year, a third the second year?
Yeah, you see roughly, it's probably 25, 50, 25.
And so how does this affect your budget for the upcoming year?
How does it affect it? What we are doing is not doing any major projects on our existing roads other than maintenance, crack seal, and reclamite type of treatment and patching, and using our funds to get these roads upgraded and move forward.
So in other words, the regular maintenance of the existing township roads will suffer a bit because of.
I think our roads have been maintained very well, and I think they're in a condition that a pushback of 3 years will not significantly impact them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made the deal.
What happens if the county doesn't come up with the money like they're supposed to?
The rate, well, I guess I'd turn to Mr. Militello and ask him that.
It's being funded by the county. You have the full faith in the county to go back on. If they decide not to pay it, then obviously you could bring a claim against the county for not paying those funds. I don't believe you're there that yet, but I think you could certainly bring that case against them.
So the county can always withdraw the support, I suppose, with a new board or whatever.
No, not once the agreement's assigned. So it's not like a letter of intent saying, oh, we're going to think about this and do it. I believe it's a binding contract that's going to be enforceable against the county. So if the county, let's call it, goes backwards and there's a change and they breach that contract, it would be within the Highway Commissioner's determination to file a breach against the county for that and enforce the agreement.
Wouldn't they probably start with a resolution before they got to a contract? Do you think they would have come across a resolution to get into that?
I would suspect that they
I
probably.
believe it's the resolution that was approved Tuesday night for the chairman to execute the intergovernmental agreement.
And I would think to me it's pretty well covered, Steve. I wouldn't be worried about that part. From what I've seen, read.
How many different homes are included in that?
How many total homes? Oh gosh, I couldn't even tell you.
Like 200, 100?
I'll just do some rough math if you don't mind. We can guess at it, all right? Let's just say there's 7.7 times 5280 equals, and then each lot is, let's just say 100 feet wide on the average, okay? So it'll be about 400 homes. Anywhere from 300 to 600 homes, probably overall.
Right, because some of the lots will be much different.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just making a guesstimate. You know, in the Wonder Lake area, the lots can be as narrow as 50 feet, and when you get into the other areas, the lots, for instance, one, Sticky Bay Association, there's no houses along the first, half a mile of road, to go back, and then you get back there and the houses are much more dense in the back.
I think 25-foot lots in Wonder Lake down there.
Yeah, but there's not too many houses
No,
on there.
I know, but it's,
You have to have a buildable size.
oh, yeah.
Is this going on to the other townships too?
They are negotiating with other townships, both Dorr and Nunda. They actually, Algonquin Township, agreed to take all their roads. They were much less than us. I think they might have been, let's just assume 3 miles. I don't know exactly what it is, but it was, let's say 3 miles. Algonquin agreed to do it for $285 a mile.
285,000.
285,000, thank you.
They did it for 285. I got a bid.
Yeah. So,
When you have to replace the pipe for the driveway,
culverts,
culvert,
driveway culverts, yes.
is there any way to ask for money to do that, or is that just something that you have to do?
That's the responsibility, there's always been the position that that's the responsibility of the road district. The the people put in the original culvert. From that point on, when it needs to be replaced, it's because it's in the right of way in the township's property, it's the township's responsibility. Plus, it's the townships that benefit. We need to maintain our drainage system.
So on the sheet you gave us for road construction projects, this is just for 2019,
Yes.
20? And so that $1,356,500 is what, just.
Yep, let me just get to it. Where we at? Let's just look at the left column there. There's North Boulevard for $60,000. Does everybody know what we're talking about?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what those first three numbers are.
Oh, those are nothing. Those had to do with other columns. Don't even worry about those. The only thing that you want to look at for this sheet I'm double checking my numbers as I go, that's all.
What sheet you got?
It's the one that doesn't have a heading, but the new heading is road construction projects 2019-20.
Do you want to take 1 second before you get started? And,
Sorry guys, I didn't mean to interrupt. I literally need him for 1 second.
Time's up. He's trying to get to the bottom of it, man. He's not trying to get.
That's what I told him. I said, tell the guy to shoot it off. Yep, I know.
Whatever that is, that tie right there?
Yeah.
There's the elevation right there.
Yeah.
That's the tie that we should be.
Okay, so he's at,
Thank you.
sorry guys, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay, as long as you got the job done, don't waste any time. Goodbye.
Okay, so that other figure,
Yeah, that's just,
$155,000, we can just disregard that one.
that's stuff that I'm doing. It's a spreadsheet and I'm double checking the math and making sure that I get everything where it's supposed to be, that's all. Ignore all those other numbers. It's just that first column, and those are the money that we'll be spending under the construction portion that you see there. That's the key of that sheet. Okay? So if you want, what we'll do is we'll take a step back.
But what about the engineering?
That is actually under the general road and bridge funds. The engineering is paid out of general road and bridge funds, and we'll go over that when we go through the budget for that.
Okay, so, just so we're straight, I mean, you deal with these things every
Yeah,
day.
absolutely.
We don't, it's
Yeah.
like Chinese to us.
Yes.
These projects are really under two separate, the funds you have, the
Yes,
hard road
yes.
and, okay. But what we're looking at is just,
Permanent hard road today.
okay.
And again, if you just took the roads, the projects that we have listed here, just this left section here are the only numbers. Don't worry about anything but that row of numbers. That was me playing around, seeing what things cost and stuff like that. Beyond that, you have information in other locations, okay? Does that make sense?
So even though we're going to be tearing up a lot of these roads, or the county is initially, or however it works out, are we really gonna be maintaining them until they get to that level?
Yeah, but maintenance is simply patching and snow plowing.
But will there really be a lot of patching if they're just gonna be?
Very minimal, just like this winter, it's been bad. We've been spending a good deal of time. Up till this point, the county has been paying us to maintain these 7.7 miles. The first year it was, I wanna say $7,000 a mile, or the first year was 10,000, then they realized that they overpaid, we didn't spend that much. This last year, last year they were at 7,000, this year they paid us 6,000. What we found out is that we're somewhere between, depending on the winter, we're somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000 is what a mile that it would cost to maintain. Doing the patching, taking care of any trees that are down, things like that, is what we did. Minimal stuff, not regular maintenance, because you wouldn't do regular maintenance, because they're gonna be upgraded. But what do we do to keep them open and keep them plowed, basically? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. And so how many miles are we talking about with North Boulevard?
North Boulevard is a different program. North Boulevard is a grant that we applied for. It's a CDBG grant. Because of the housing, the income levels in those areas, they're considered I don't want to say a poverty area. I don't know the right term for it. But so we have the opportunity, and we actually applied for several $100,000 worth of grants. The area that we're talking about is, if you know where Route 120 and Lily Lake Road is, as Lily Lake Road goes south, there's a bunch of non-dedicated roads on the west side of Little Lake Road, and they're really in poor shape. But the people do not have the money to upgrade them. We applied for a grant for all those roads. There's several roads in there. And I think the grant was even for 700 and some thousand to upgrade those roads, and then we would take them over. This first year, we got $72,000 in grant money to upgrade North Boulevard. And they requested that we would come back again. So basically, we're getting money, $72,000 to upgrade the road. That's not a county, it's not part of the county program. It's separate of that. This is just a grant that we applied for, and we got $72,000 so we can upgrade a small stretch of that whole area. It's really a good
State
thing.
grant?
It is through the county community development block grant.
Okay.
So it's through that. In addition to that, just as a side note to that.
That's a federal grant.
It's federal money.
Where it comes from,
Yeah,
where it
I
comes
know
from,
what
I'm
you're
not
talking about.
sure.
It is federal money.
Yeah. So, in addition to that, there are rollover funds that haven't been used in the past. People got grants but didn't use them. There's $250,000 right now that they're calling for applications for those $250,000. So we'll be applying for an additional $250,000 and hopefully get some more of those roads improved. And we'll continue to apply annually to get those roads upgraded.
Are you guys listening closely to what he's saying there? There's money there that.
But for a purpose, you
Yeah,
have people that, this is a very poor area, they do not have the ability to upgrade those roads, and we're being provided funds to upgrade those roads. Now, if you want to disagree with that, I guess that's an argument to have, but the funds are there, and our process is the funds are there to upgrade where there's poverty areas and get those areas upgraded so that the people can,
If only the smart people are like yourself know they're there and go after them. Some
Yeah,
people miss them there. But
This wasn't done by the prior
I'm
road
one of those
commission.
first meetings when it came up.
None of this grant application.
not that I'm aware of. I'm sure they applied for other types of grants and things, but
And so when you say we're applying, that means you are.
the township road district is.
So the question that comes here though now is that these people that are low income you're talking about, we're fighting to upgrade the roads. So now we're gonna force themselves out of those homes when the real estate taxes go up? I look at the whole this thing rolling around, and you get something started, but,
I think actually what
it's
you're
gonna be
going,
interesting how this comes too.
well, I think what you will see is that they will no longer be paying to maintain their roads themselves. And as a result, hopefully they'll
Well,
have
but they
sufficient
weren't,
income.
I was involved in our subdivision long enough for Wonder Lake, you weren't paying $6,000 to $7,000 a
I'm sorry,
mile.
say that
You
again?
weren't paying $6,000 to $7,000 on a subdivision dollars to maintain those miles a year either. But anyway.
And the levels of service that were provided are completely different.
Well, I know that,
So-
I know what it was, I know, I'm just saying what they got by, but
I mean,
I'm very familiar with how
to
that
some
evolved.
degree, no matter what we do, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. So we make a decision that we think is in the best interest of everybody involved. You can look at any decision that we make and look at it from either side of the coin, and I can give you an argument on both sides. That's why when you tell me something and you bring up points, I listen to what you say, I go back, I think about it, I look at it, and if there's validity to it, I try to do something about it. So that's the way that I look at things. And but I can tell you, any decision that we make, from a political standpoint, you can jump on either side of that. It's just what's crazy. What I try to do is decide what's right for the residents of Mchenry Township. So, and we're going to agree most of the time. There's probably 20% of the time we won't, and life will go on. We'll come to a compromise. That's the way it's supposed to work, right?
So are there letters sent to the residents that abut these roads from the township?
They've been notified through their representatives of those areas. The representatives that would normally be applying for the MFT funds that they get and the road and bridge funds that they get, we notified those representatives, and they obviously they were very happy about that and hope that we continue to apply.
And these are available for public inspection, right?
What's that?
These communications to their representatives.
And mostly
What'd you
it's
say,
probably
Steve?
phone calls or emails type of thing. So there's not a record of a phone call. I don't document every phone call. we
would
make.
you repeat your question, Steve, what did you say?
Well, I didn't realize that they were some of them are just phone calls. So there are records of these communications to these representatives of the various associations. And the response was sometimes it's just by phone.
This, it was 72,000, I think you said, to upgrade.
It was 72 or 74. Got too many numbers running around.
Is there an agreement that goes along with you going in and fixing this that you will annex in the future, or is it, how does that
Not
work?
annex, there's
Or, I
nothing
mean,
to annex.
Take in the
Yes,
roads.
it is, part of the grant requirement is that we will take over the road, yes. Just like with the county, part of their agreement for us for them to pay for upgrading the road is that we will take over and maintain the road.
Well, there's a title involved, isn't there? If a title, is there a title involved?
A
If someone
title?
was- A title, when you take those roads out?
There's a prescriptive, with the county, it's a prescriptive easement. It's an easement that is related to the area that you need to maintain the road. With the grant one, we would expect to take the whole right of way. I mean, it's been platted already, it just has not been officially dedicated to a municipal government. They're full private roads.
Do the associations have that ownership, right of ownership of those, or how's that
For
work?
in particular, Indian Ridge did, and that's one of the reasons why Indian Ridge went first, was they owned that right of way and they were willing to give it all up, so that's why we took it.
All right, so there's a line item for $60,000 for North Pole Road, right?
There is one line item for the total full amount.
And that's the 1.9 million?
Yes.
Well,
So,
so these are all the projects then?
these are the projects that we'll be constructing next year.
Okay.
So if you wanna, what we ought to probably do is just go to the budget itself. We're getting a little bit off track. I was hoping just to go through the budget line item by line item and explain everything to you. You just pass it up left hand, underneath the colored sheet. Bingo. This sheet, okay? So what you have there, this is our permanent hard road budget. You can see the categories on the left-hand side, and then you can see what we spent in 2016, 2017, 2018-19 so far. That's probably since the middle of last month. I don't think I updated it since then, okay? And what we budgeted and what we spent. I should have taken that back. The third column is what we budgeted for last year. The fourth column is what we've spent so far to date, which is pretty darn close to what it's going to be at the end of the year, okay? And the fifth column is what we're proposing this year. So let's just go through them one line item at a time, if that's all right. The first one is property taxes that we anticipate collecting. And that's the sheet that I passed out to you earlier that I don't know what I did with. Let me find it real quick. That was the, did I not keep a copy of it?
The tax computation?
Exactly. Basically, that says that we're getting about $1.3 million, $1.33 million. I estimated, because I didn't have it at the time, $1.325 million. That's the, yes, exactly. No, that's all right. That's the amount that we got. Last year was 1.325. We budgeted 1.33. I just went back to 1.325 this year. Again, it's a budget, it's not exact, okay? So that's that first line item. That's our property taxes. Then we have the Illinois replacement tax, and I'll leave our attorney to explain what the heck that is. But in any case, if you want an explanation, I'm sure Jim can provide it.
We talked about it.
So you know what it is.
We talked about it.
So, and you can see it was 30, 25, and 25, and so I put 25 for this year, okay?
Jim, can I just stop you on that? The only one thing. Just going back on the one piece, the new tax extension worksheet.
Yes.
They did bump it up on the tax amount, so $1.4 million on this piece.
It's a $1.4 million.
Yeah, so they got it at $1.4 million.
We got
He's got the new
1.325.
one yet.
Yeah, so this is brand new. This just came out.
Right.
And that's the one that I signed, but this was done before that. Okay.
Yeah. This
So
is just
that
brand new.
is actually $1.4 million
So, yeah, it
that
came
we're
out.
supposed to get in
Yes.
in
Permanent hard road.
What does it take off the taxes that aren't collected, the allotment that we provide? Because what I was looking at, wait, this is for billing, no, there's a mistake. This is the billing that we're taxing this year that we collect next year. That's what that is, okay? What I'm looking at is if you look at the permanent hard road asset sheet, if you look at the permanent hard road asset sheet, you'll see taxes that we estimate collecting next year. That's what, if you look at the permanent hard road asset sheet,
The balance sheet, guys.
the balance sheet, okay? You'll see 2018 and then 2019. I printed both years just because I always look back. But you'll see a line item there of assets of $1.33 million, okay? Those are the taxes that we build this year that we collect next year in taxes, okay? Does that make sense? It's an asset to us, but we don't have it yet. It's not cash here, okay? Everybody understand that?
No.
Okay, that's right. So these are our assets, okay? These taxes are what people owe for this budget year.
But we don't have that
But
money.
we collect it next year. So it's an asset to us, but when you get down, you'll see they take it out because we don't have the money. So the net assets are less, okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, we got 1.33 million, I bump it down for non-collected taxes to 1.25 million, or 1.325 million, okay? Does that make sense?
The uncollected is 6,650.
Where is that?
Yeah, sure.
1.3. Here?
Yeah, that's what it was. But, so we got 1.3 million is what we taxed this year, according to our assets and what we've been told, and we get paid for it next year. So it's an asset, but we don't have the money. That money will come in next year. So it's $1.33 million. And then I bump it down to 1.325, just because I'm estimating uncollected taxes, for allowance for uncollectible taxes. I bump $5,000 off of it, basically. Okay? And that's how I get the 1.325. That's all it is.
All right.
That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay? Does everybody understand that first revenue, 1.325? The next one you guys already went over, the Illinois replacement tax. The following one is interest income. You can see it's fluctuated over the years. Last year it was 5,780 so far, and I guess 5,500. Okay? Miscellaneous income, that is varied over the years. I think a lot of it is recycling. When we take in culverts, we take them and recycle them and we get paid for it, and that's what that is. That's what that line item is now.
You mean
okay?
the steel?
Yeah, the steel, exactly. From signs, when we're replacing signs and when we replace culverts. Those old rusted up things, we drag them over there and recycle them, okay? I estimate 1,000. I'd rather be on the low side of that. It might be 3,000, but I estimate low, okay? The next one is the McDOT Indian Ridge IGA. That's what McDOT will be paying us. The remainder of the intergovernmental agreement is $116,000. We plan on finishing that up this year, okay?
And that's a certainty.
Yes, the county went defunct, which Jim points out. We would then
Well,
take action against
do
them.
you have to meet a certain time frame or what?
No, it's actually, we are good with that. We've given them the instruction. That's one of the benefits of us controlling the contract. We have the ability to extend that. So we are okay with that. Okay? The next one is the IGA construction for those projects. You remember the 3-year project for the non-dedicated roads? I estimate that the county will pay us $1,063,000 this year for the roads that we'll be doing. That goes back to this spreadsheet that I did here. If you look on this spreadsheet here, that's just adding up what the county will spend, what roads we're planning on taking in. East Pistaki Bay, Hemans is the first year, Mineral Springs and Shelmar are the roads that we'll be taking in. If you take those roads and the length of those roads times 450,000, it's about $1 million that they'll be paying us this year. and I plan on reconstructing those roads this year.
And the Township Road District is in charge of it.
Yes,
So do you get a management fee on top of it
no,
to do all this?
correct. Okay?
I don't mean you personally.
Yeah,
I mean
no,
the
yeah, I know
town.
what you mean, yeah. No, our agreement is we will take the roads in, we will be paid $450,000 a mile, and we will upgrade them to what we find acceptable.
And what happens if it turns out to be more than that? Then the township has to eat it?
They do. But they have an engineer who has a pretty good idea of what he's doing.
I hope we do.
Yeah. Me too. But I think we'll be fine. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made the deal. Let's be honest with you.
So that amount of money is sort of concrete.
Yes. Well,
And if it turns out to be actually less than that, then it's just sort of a quote, profit, unquote.
well, what will happen in the end, I'm sure we will spend more than $450,000 a mile for all of our roads, as I mentioned. But what we will be able to do is, if we only spend, for instance, in, what's it called by Dusty's? Associated.
Wonderwoods.
Wonderwoods, thank you. Wonderwoods, if we only spend $250,000 on Wonderwoods, the other $200,000 we can still use in other places where we're gonna need it, like Lookout Point.
Now,
So-
do you have to use this extra money in the various places that are in the project? Or can it be used for other roads?
Oh, no, just these roads. They can only be used for just these roads. These 7.7 miles, is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, just for this 7.7 miles.
Jim, do you have to have a prescribed way of fixing these roads, or is that up to you personally?
It is up to the Township Road District and what the Township Road District will accept. It's really simple. I've learned, what we need to do is we need to get a solid base, and we need to address drainage problems. Because what will happen if, what the county originally wanted to do was they wanted to come in and grind and pave. That's all they wanted to do, and then it's our roads and it's your problem. The issue with that, especially on these old subdivisions, is two things that happen. One example is Indian Ridge, which used to be, from what I understand, from the 70s, was really a nice subdivision, and the ditches were all nice and everything was good, and they stopped maintaining it. And that's what happened over time. People filled in ditches, people didn't care, and we ended up with all these drainage problems. So the maintenance stopped. So that's one of the things. The second thing that happens is, especially along the river and along lake fronts and things like that, you've got a lot of people that do these minor little things to take care of these little drainage problems. That are by their garage is sitting below their house or below the road a little bit. But then as soon as, and so it drains to the garage, but as soon as it's taken over by the township, unless we spend the time to really look at these and make sure that we understand what's happening and solve those little nuisance problems, they're gonna be our problems in the end. So that's the kind of things that we are looking to do. When we dig in, we look at the drainage problem and solve drainage problems as cheaply and as possibly as we can, but make sure that we solve them. And we're not gonna solve them all. We're gonna solve 95% of them, and then we're gonna scratch our head after it's in place, and over the next 5 years, solve the other 5%, for instance. But that's the kind of mentality when we go into these, is the county's mentality when their transportation committee was saying, we just spent $350,000 on, per mile on, I forget the name of the road that was in the county. It was one of their main roads. Not main, but it was one that goes through Bull Valley. Gosh darn it, I can't remember the name of it. And they said it cost us $350,000. That's ridiculous. You should spend more than that. Well, yeah, we could have done what they wanted for $350,000. But then I would have been on the phone and spending township dollars continuously trying to take care of all these small nuisance problems. And so what we try to do is make sure that we tackle all of those. We stretch the rules as much as possible, as far as what we can accept or not accept. And I use every trick that I can think of as far as engineering goes to keep those costs as low as we can.
Do you call in the county engineer times when you get stumped?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you call in on the county engineer sometimes when you get stumped?
Can I just reserve comment? I think I'm pretty smart. I will tell you the county engineers don't do nearly as much design work as I have done. Most of their design work is all contracted out. Okay? So Would I call them? No, I'm talking to my consultants. If anything, here's what happens. As an example, Indian Ridge, we hired somebody to do it because it took a whole staff, it was $100 or $200,000 worth of engineering. I don't remember the number, but that's a large amount. There's no way we're doing that here. That's gonna be contracted out. So then what happens is, we go through, the engineers come up with these designs, and I look at them and I go, that guy's not gonna want a 15% driveway, that guy's not, what about this drainage problem? I go through every single part of it, and then I go through and I tell them how to change it to make it work. It's just, we're very fortunate in that you have me sitting here with respect to that, especially in Indian Ridge. Things that we did in Indian Ridge, that budget, if it would have been designed without somebody of my experience sitting there, you would have had a highway commissioner that hasn't done design work or construction work, and they wouldn't have been looking for the things that I look at, because I've designed it so long, I know where the problems are, and I know what you can do. For instance, things on East Lake Shore Drive, you know what it was like. You got a house with a driveway up here and a house with a driveway down here, and you've only got so much that you can do with the road. Well, normally you have a crown with the road with 2%. I said, we can live without that 2%. We can have it straight crowned all the way across. On top of that, we can increase that slope by a certain percent. And then I'm looking at every single driveway to try to make sure that every driveway is still manageable, okay? So those are the kinds of things that we spend a lot of time, and the real benefit they have through me. And hopefully, it ended up, two things happened there. One, you had about 1/20th of the calls you would have had if you didn't have somebody like, in my opinion, somebody like me looking over their shoulder. And two, I think we really saved a lot of money. We thought that was expensive. It could have been a lot more expensive. You know, we cut a lot of corners. And I know that's hard for you to believe, because that's an expensive road out there. But that was a tough job. It really was. But that's, you know, and you don't have to believe that, just what I'm telling you. But I can tell you, speaking from experience, those are the things that we're going to do. And that's when we go through these. That's why we'll be doing that. You know, for instance, one of the first projects that we'll do is Shalmar. And you look at the slopes and the grades that exist out in Indian Ridge compared to Orchard Beach. Orchard Beach is much flatter. It's going to be a little easier. We're not going to be cutting through, and drainage is right to the river there, and we'll figure out what to do there. So hopefully we'll be okay. Did I answer your question? I'm not sure where we started with that. Kind of got sidetracked.
It was more than a summary.
Yeah. Well, I get excited. Can you tell I get excited about this stuff?
So as far as the PHR income goes,
Yes.
the next 2 years are going to be a little more abnormal.
The next three. This year and the next two. Yes.
Right. And then we'll get back to where we were sort of in 2017-18.
2017-18, not necessarily, because you had the Indian Ridge funds in there. So, see the one.
No, I mean the year before the Indian Ridge started, it went to 1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So 2017-18 budget is really a more normal
Yes.
budget for you.
Yes. Yes.
And so the 18-19 was thrown off because of the Indian Ridge,
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yes.
which is also going to affect this year's budget.
100,000. Yes.
Right. But then the IGA agreement with the county, with the 1.63 million coming in for next year,
Yeah.
will be pretty much duplicated in the next
The
2
following
years.
year. So if you look at the colored sheet here, and you go over to the right-hand columns, go to the top there. It says project cost per year county at the top. Okay. Maybe you find that.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And if you just follow year one down, you'll see that 1.06 million.
Right.
And then go to year two, I expect 1.486 million.
Okay.
And then the following year would be 870,000.
And that's the last year.
Yes.
And that would be a budget that would still be affected by this board.
Yeah, we'll be doing the same thing
Right.
next year and the year
No,
after.
I'm just trying to get a handle on the next 3 years, the next 3 years' budget. Okay. So, this grant has already been received?
No,
The CDBG?
as we spend the money, we get funded for it. We haven't spent any money yet. It's 72,000, and I'm expecting 12,000 in engineering and 60,000 in construction.
Okay,
And the engineering is on the other, the General Road and Bridge.
okay. But there's no, that's a near certainty of
Yes,
receiving.
Yes, it's been approved all the way through the county. County board has approved it.
Okay.
So any questions on the cash revenue? If not, we'll move to the fun stuff.
The 16-17, that was before you became road commissioner, right?
I think I started as of December something in 2015.
Okay.
Where's the cutoff for the fiscal year?
No, it's our fiscal year, March 31st, April 1st to March 31st. Are we good on the revenue portion? What you'll see in 2016-17, and then you go to 2017-18, was the reduced levy that we did, okay? You'll see 1.7 jumping down to 1.4. I round off all the time. So that's why you see that reduction there.
What was that?
Right here. 1.7 million in taxes, 1.77 down to 1.395 or 1.4 I call it.
So this is considering the levy that was presented to the county for the 2018-19 budget?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That's the levy that was applied for this year's budget year that'll be paid next year. Is that what you mean?
Yes, but I didn't think anything had been reduced from that. But from the prior year, that levy.
I think actually, if you remember, we did rebate an additional amount last year, in addition to the levy itself. I don't recall exactly.
Well, not rebate, levy, right?
Yeah, thank you.
No,
Yeah.
it was
5%,
I want to say,
A lot of numbers back there, but
I don't have that with me, I think it was like a dollar amount.
If I recall, it's approximately 5% from the road district,
Right,
but I don't know what the dollar amount.
that was last year's.
Mhm.
I can look.
I'm just trying to account for the differential between this year and last year.
the 135 compared to the 139.
No, the top budget, the property tax budget.
Right.
1395 to 1330.
Yeah, that 1230 is just a budgeted number, don't forget that. That's just a budgeted number. The actual number so far was 1325. You know, the next column over, that's all.
The levy was 3 million.
No.
Yeah, that's
No.
it's broken up
We're
into.
talking about permanent hard road, right?
But that was for both of them, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So 3 million.
Yeah,
The
it
total-
doesn't
yeah,
show.
the total was 3 million.
But if you look in there, I think it
Yeah,
delineates how much is for permanent hard road
right,
versus.
but the total here is 3 million for the both
Well,
funds.
Correct.
but we don't really have, we're still missing the final month, is the reason why it's off.
I don't know that we've gotten anything this last month.
For what, revenue?
Yeah,
No,
because that's taxes.
That's all done.
As soon as they come in, you get them
right, and that's all,
No, we
done.
get
That's
no
all
more.
been,
within the month
that goes
for
from
the taxes themselves.
June to December.
Correct.
June to December, and then payments twice a month.
Well, maybe Mr. Militello knows how this goes. Just say that funds for prior years are finally paid. That would just be an extra amount.
What happens is, for example, in March 31st of 2018, which is now coming up March 31st of 2019, when the auditor does the audit, they look at the cash available, but then they look at your taxes that basically do a tax extension worksheet. And in that particular year, which would have been, the levy would have been in 2017, and then the funds collected in 2018, it was $1,323,356, which is right on with Jim's budget. The levy, which Bob was talking about, was a $3 million levy, which coincides then with this tax extension worksheet, which is $3 million. What this extension worksheet though does is it's a little skewed because you have a certain amount of the municipal piece, which is $553,000, which Jim actually doesn't get. The county takes those funds from him. And so, for example, in the road and bridge fund last year, he didn't actually get $1.6 million. He got $1,007,000 for the road and bridge. The permanent hard road was $1,323,000. So the monies that you anticipate receiving from the levy last December, you'll get in June, July, August, September, so on. Which will then show up on the March 2020 audit.
Okay.
So we're good on revenue. Anybody have any questions on revenue? Okay.
Well, this recycling stuff, when you have the recycling days,
Yeah, go ahead.
where does that revenue come from?
The recycling days actually, if I recall correctly, is in the road and bridge funds.
Okay,
Actually,
okay.
it's in the road and bridge funds.
Okay.
This recycling, this miscellaneous is the recycling of the culverts. Actually, I printed up stuff here. Let me just look at what miscellaneous income was this last year and just give you an idea.
Well, if it's in the other fund, that's fine. I just trying to think how you've integrated it all.
Let me just glance at miscellaneous funds. It's all listed as various, and I believe those were just cash that we received from funds that we received from recycling of our culverts and our signs.
And I can verify that because I deposited that, yes.
Yeah, does that ring a bell then?
Yep.
So that's what that was. Okay? And it's a guesstimate. Okay, so we'll move on. No questions on revenue? Okay. I want to skip administrative or the salaries, because that next section is the salaries of the employees. But we spent a lot of time, the only other two things are miscellaneous expenses and contingencies. Or not miscellaneous, commodities or road repair and construction and contingencies. And just knock those out real quick, if that's all right.
Where does your salary come out?
It comes out of the road and bridge. Half of it comes out of the road and bridge fund. The other half comes out of the township.
Right, and that's by law.
But we talked about them before, can we move that all of the town fund over to here? Because we did it with the assessor, how did that happen?
Oh, because the assessor is under the town fund, so that's why I could do it.
That's how we could do that, but
Right, but
this one we can't
the
because
law-
it's separate.
Right, the law prescribes that the township shall pay at least 50% of the highway commissioner's salary, and up to the other 50% can be paid out of his own funds.
So we maximize it.
We maximize it both
can.
ways.
You want to do something to change that?
But I was thinking about
obviously-
this, but that's why you can't do it.
I
because
can't
it's
move
separate-
money from
because
it,
it's a
but,
separate
right.
deal.
She's in the same fund as me, so that's
I
why I
got
did
it,
it.
no, I got it.
Okay,
So
so let's,
is your salary totally coming out of the PHR fund?
no, none of it comes out of the PHR. We'll talk about the salaries in a second. Let's just skip that. And just go through, let's do the simple ones first. The road construction, road repair and construction. Now, what we talked about there is this other small sheet that it amounts to. We were touching on it earlier. So a small sheet? Yeah, right there.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's just go, again, we're paying $1.91 million estimated in road construction and repair. Where that comes from is simply North Boulevard, we talked about, that's the small stretch in Lakemore that we're reconstructing this year, okay? The crack seal, what we spend about $20,000 a year is what we budget for crack seal. This was when pavement cracks, we go out there, we grind it, and we put liquid asphalt down, to seal that out, because one of the things that kills roads is water in the base. So you just seal it up and it lasts probably 5 years or something, okay?
And that's for all the township roads
Yes,
somehow
yes,
come under
yes,
this, but not
exactly.
the ones that we're,
Not the ones that we're reconstructing.
and not the ones that we've got intergovernmental agreements on with municipalities.
Right, no, not at all. It's just our roads,
Okay.
okay? And then the next thing is reclamite. General Road and Bridge Fund. Reclamite, if you recall what reclamite is from previous conversations, reclamite is a treatment that we do to the road that tries to extend the life of the road. You do it 2 times over the life of a road. A road's life generally up to now has been about 12 to 15 years is the life expected cycle of the road. By treating it with reclamite after the first year or after the first year, and then treating it about 5 to 6 years later, you can extend the road of that life by 5 years. It helps with the oxidation and keeps it's a treatment, an additive, a treatment to the asphalt to keep it flexible and seal it up, keep water out type of thing.
Is that
So-
what you did to Riverside Drive last year?
Yes, exactly. This year, you'll see that this amount is very large. It's $100,000 this year, okay? And the reason for that, compared to previous years, is because we have 6 miles of Indian Ridge that we're doing this year. That's why it's such a large amount. It's a big jump there. We've got 6 miles of Indian Ridge that we'll be doing that too this year, okay? Make sense?
Well, so I take it you can't do it after the 10th year?
No.
To try and extend the road?
No, by that time, the road is more in a down cycle and it won't do any good.
Okay.
So, okay? Then we've got the county NSR roads, which is the roads that we were talking about, that the county is paying us $1,063,000, and we're paying the remainder of up to $1.3 million is the total construction cost for those roads this coming year. Make sense?
For the township?
Yeah, well, for the whole project. Of the $1.3 million that we have in there, $1,063,000 is the county, and we make up the rest. Again, that's $450,000 is an estimate, $450,000 by the county and $100 by the township
What is the,
per mile.
what does the NSR stand?
Non-dedicated subdivision roads. That's a county acronym. We always say NDR, non-dedicated roads, period. So, make sense? Okay? Then we have Orchard Beach. Actually, Orchard Beach is out this year, so that will not be included. Then we have a miscellaneous. I do have $50,000 in there in case we have any miscellaneous reconstruction that we have to do. That is any roads that we have a problem with or anything that comes up that we have to do some large section. For instance, we have a road that, because of this last winter, it blows up, and we have to basically patch 100 feet of it, something like that. It's $50,000 is what I put in there for that to give us some flexibility. Also, in case there's any cost overruns and anything else, because none of these projects have been bid out, we have $50,000 that can go to that.
So you can cost overruns and everything?
Yes. That can go into any one of those line items under there.
And it's supposed to cover township roads only, not roads that we're working on in terms of a municipality that we have an agreement with.
North Boulevard's gonna be ours. The county roads, the NSRs are gonna be ours before we do anything. And Indian Ridge, for all practical purposes, is ours.
But then Indian Ridge is down for $500,000
Yes. The
in
completion,
addition to that.
the completion of the Indian Ridge projects will be $500,000.
And these NSR, that relates to this 7
Yes.
miles of road here,
The first year of the 7 miles.
first year.
So just say that everything comes in as you estimate, in
Mhm.
terms of Indian Ridge and North Boulevard and everything
Yes.
else. And this 50,000
Mhm.
is just there. That'll be spent on some other road, I take it.
It will probably, since our funds are lower than what we probably want them to be as far as reserves, it would probably contribute to reserves unless we have, something that would require it.
So did this happen last year, the miscellaneous?
The miscellaneous, let's just glance back if I did not, I would have to break down that road construction, and I don't remember, I don't have it with me, how we broke it down last year. I'd have to go back and look. I can tell you, we estimated 239, and we only spent 2 million last year, as an example.
I can tell you in your March 31st, 2018 audit, you had a deficit in your permanent road by 276,000. So we had more expenses than revenue.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's more than that by now.
But that's in the bridge and road budget, right?
No, that
that's
was the
permanent harbor.
permanent road, permanent harbor. It was, permanent harbor road at the end of the fiscal year of audit, 2018, March 31st.
Our budget approved last year had a deficit of 637,000.
So that just came out of the reserves, I take it?
Yes.
That you have full authority to do, right?
Not only did I have authority to do it, you all approved it.
Well, the board did. I don't know if I was on that one.
You were,
You would have liked to have been part of it, come on. So that's our construction projects for this year, 1.91 million. And of course, those are estimates, absolutely.
Well, what's the variable? Up or down?
Up or down, maybe 10%, 15%. Things that could happen, as an example, for some reason we couldn't get through engineering, or for instance, we don't get these roads up and ready to be bid out in time, that for whatever reason, I don't know why, but let's just say something came up, and we didn't get the roads out to bid until October, and then no contractor in October is gonna sign a contract unless it's extremely inflated to have it constructed this budget year. And then we would back out of the contract and we rebid it next spring. So that kind of stuff can happen, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Those are the types of things, or the budget, the numbers could be slightly higher or slightly lower. I am hoping that we can spend less than the 550,000 a mile that we're estimating for some of these roads. But I don't know until we actually get all the engineering and go through it.
All right, so if it was 10 to 15% higher, that would also come out of reserve.
If it was, yes, well, it
No,
will not come out of the reserves unless it's in this budget. For instance, this budget has a deficit of 100 and some thousand, okay? That's coming out of reserves. There's 330,000 about in reserves, I estimate right now. 300 and some thousand, less than 400, okay? So the only thing that can come out of reserves, unless we come back and do a budget thing, would be money that's in this budget. For instance, if these road projects came in much higher, we wouldn't be signing the contracts to do it. The money has to be there before we can sign the contract. If reclamite, for instance, if reclamite is, I want to say it's $84 a square yard. If reclamite came in at $1.35 a square yard to reclamite these roads, it would be another $50,000, and I don't have that in the budget, except for in our contingency. But then I would evaluate whether I really want to go through with that, or break it up into more years, stretch it out a little bit.
So this, what was the deficit, the number for the deficit?
Lower right-hand corner of this sheet. Right where your right hand is, right there.
This,
Yes, right down at the bottom, right there.
all right. So out of the 330 some 100,000 in the reserve, that would come out of it,
Yes.
right? With no need for another budgetary meeting or anything else.
Correct, because he'll be putting it in this budget, yes.
Okay?
So I think we've cruised through the revenue. Anybody have any questions about road repair and construction? And we'll go through this, answer these questions, and maybe the next time we meet, you can say, well, I think I should change something, or you want something changed. Follow me? That's all right. Make your suggestions. Or if you want to make them today, that's okay too. I'm glad to do that now. So does that all answer it there? And then I do have one other line item at the bottom, $25,000 contingency. Again, it's just one more area that gives us some flexibility in case we go over on anything.
All right, which page is that?
Oh, it's the same one.
It's the same.
All I'm doing is going right down this
It's
right
going
hand
right
corner
down the
here.
line.
Okay. So basically, we took care of revenue.
All right, so there's
We
no
took care of
miscellaneous.
construction. No, this is contingency, it's right there, that 25,000 additional contingency. When you look at a budget of, $2 million, you know, 1% of contingency is not very, $2.7 million is the budget. We're talking about 1% contingency on this.
All right, so there's nothing in this budget about studies or
Not this one, that would all be,
on the other budget?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Okay?
And would it be fair to say that nothing of the contingency was used this year so far?
Nothing, not in this budget. When you go to the road and bridge budget, that's a different story because of all the snow plowing that we've had to do.
All right, but this 50,000 is just for permanent hard road,
Yes, and nothing has been spent so far this year.
and nothing really was spent last year or the year before that.
Correct.
So my question is, why do you need it?
I'm nervous. Honestly, it's 1% of the budget, just in case something comes up that's unforeseen.
So then you could do a study out of that money.
Not unless, well, I don't know. I don't think
No,
so.
you couldn't, because your commodities is repair and construction.
Or salaries.
Well,
Well-
you've got.
Oh, it's under that commodities.
Yeah, you've got $50,000 in
Got
that
it.
particular one, so.
Yes, it would only fall under those commodities.
So if salt went up, that's where the money
Salt
would
is
come
not
up.
in this. If road construction costs went up.
If materials related to the,
Yes,
which are
Perfect.
what? Besides this calamite or whatever it is.
reclamate.
Reclamite. There aren't any real other commodities, right?
Well, there's just the construction costs themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's a 25,000 on top of that.
All right, so there was 50,000 in the budget last year. None of it was used, so up to now, and none is really expected to be used this last month, right?
No.
Okay, so
You want me, you can make the recommendation to take it out, but
I'm just wondering, if you anticipate something that's really important that we have to worry about.
if I anticipated something, I would tell you what it is and I would include it in the budget. This is for things that we don't think of. Obviously, we've done a pretty good job of thinking of things in the past.
Okay. So then if that was removed, then the deficit would
Be even less.
be less.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So the last thing to cover on this budget here is I'm gonna pass this sheet out, okay? And before you jump down my throat,
No one's gonna do that.
this is just a starting point, and I'm open for suggestions of anything, okay? So what I'll pass out here is, this is all the hourly wages of all of our employees, okay? And you'll see I highlighted, in the past, all of the wages that come out of the road and bridge were administrative, in other words, office and myself, okay? This year, what we've done is we are taking some additional employees, more of the management type of employees, and switching them over to road and bridge for two reasons, well, for one reason. Because the reserves are so large in the other, and because we're doing so much in road and bridge, and we reduced our tax collectability volumes or levels in the permanent hard road, we're going to switch some people over to the road and bridge as part of the salaries in the road and bridge. That's number one. That's the people highlighted in yellow. The last two have always been over there. The other four are being moved over. They're crew leaders and things like that. Foremen, crew leaders. Okay? Does that make sense? What I did was, for simplicity, for a salary, if you take their hourly rates, everybody works 2,080 hours a year, except for that 1 day a year that we have an extra day. Okay? there's 2,080 hours a year. I just took their salary or their hourly rate times that, okay? And then, to estimate this year's budget, I increased the salaries, assuming raises overall, average of 3.5%. I think that's what, when we were at that first meeting, or the meeting that I sat in on, you guys were talking about that for the township, and I'm not sure where you ended up with that. So I just used that for our starting point, okay? So does that make sense? So then I take that number, which if you look at the bottom is the 516,000 on the lower right. 516,000, and then I just insert it into salaries for the 2019-2020 budget year. And then you have overtime. In the past couple of years, if you look back, it's been anywhere from below 10% to above 10%. So I used 10% for overtime. Okay? And most of that overtime is either if it's flooding, or there's a storm event, or there's snow plowing. Those are the overtimes. Okay? At least 95% of them. That make sense? Okay? And then the rest of them are just percentages of what I saw in previous years. It didn't seem to work out, but I didn't spend too much time. Social Security and Medicare should be about 7.5%, but it didn't work out that way every year. And the same thing with IMRF. Employee insurance, I made an estimate of what I thought it would be this year. It went down, but again, because we're shifting employees from the permanent hard road over to the general road and bridge fund. Just because we have reserves there. So. And then the HR, the HRA, that's funds, that's kind of our self-insurance. With our health insurance, we have a large deductible, but we pay, is that right? Am I getting this right?
Yeah, sure.
We pay a large deductible. And the reason why I jumped it up this year is because we've had, we have 2 shoulder surgeries this year. And so there's going to be, we didn't have that in the past years. A couple guys have hurt their shoulders. And then we had some back possible issues too. So I'm accounting for a little bit more medical expense than what we've seen in the past. I think the township has experienced that in the past too, in that people have had some serious health issues one year, and all of a sudden I remember it jumped up for some reason.
Right.
So, anyways, but that's the process for these salaries and what I'm thinking. I would, just on a side note, you'll notice one of our employees' names there, Ben, who works for us, started out at $18 an hour, has worked for us, was just hired by the city of Mchenry, and his starting wage is $23 an hour for their, I think it's a 90-day or a 6-month trial period, and then jumps to $25 an hour after that. So one thing I want to point out to you is our rates are pretty low. Our rates are lower than surrounding government agencies. And unfortunately, I think we may be doing some training of other people's staff. They come here, they learn, and they leave because they make more money elsewhere. So just keep that in mind as you consider these. This is something that I think we're going to start running up against. As the economy has improved substantially, there's other opportunities for people, and there's opportunities for people to leave. Not that, just keep that in mind. I guess I share that with you.
Well, but as a counterpoint, most private enterprises are not paying pensions either, okay?
But they are supplying simple IRA programs or 401k type of stuff too, which is not as good as the pension. I'm not arguing that, so don't worry about that. But you're right.
If they even do it.
But the person that I just mentioned is going from one government agency to another, and they have the same exact IMRF that we have.
Well, in economics, that would be called a microeconomic shift on the cost benefit that individual workers make for their own decision of who to work for. So that isn't really something you can put on as an across-the-board
No,
situation.
I should share it with you so that you know that it's happening. The more information we give you, the better off we all are, so.
So I thought the COLA increase was was 2 point something.
You know, the township was talking 2.8%, I don't know. That's what we were talking about. Jim can, you know,
That was the social security.
that was what,
That's what social.
that's the social security, that's what I was talking about for my
Well,
phone.
like I said, when we first met, I thought I heard 3.5, so I put 3.5 in, so we could run it through. I'm glad to discuss anything with you. I bring up the point that other people, I know Nunda pays more than we do. I know the city of Mchenry pays more than we do. I do not know about the, I'm trying to remember a conversation last week, because I asked somebody at the city of Johnsburg their rates from high to low, and I think they were just slightly higher than us. But I don't know their whole benefits and everything, so I don't want to say. I know like Nunda is higher than us. I know that McHenry is higher than us, and I know the benefit programs are about the same. So I'll leave it at that, because I have not looked outside of that. And I think both of those are apples to apple in comparison of work and level of service and stuff. Okay?
But you have in your entire discretion to give out more money to anybody, right?
That would be an average, yes, absolutely. People that advance and take on more responsibility. As an example, we had a long-term foreman this past year who is no longer here, and we advanced other people into those responsibilities he filled, and they did obtain a pay adjustment for that, yes.
So we can say no increase, but then you say, I'm gonna do it anyway, and take it out of the
Well, I think-
miscellaneous, or the.
Well, I would hope what you would say is, not no increase, you would say a reasonable increase for a staff member over the course of a year would be something, the cost of living.
But what I'm getting
But
at.
Steve's question answered.
Yeah,
What
but
was it?
What I'm getting at is, it doesn't matter what we say, these budgets, these amounts for these individual workers on an hourly basis, they're actually quite kind of meaningless for us, because you can determine to raise their salary.
Boy, I can cut half of the people down to minimum wage and triple the other, or double the other, is that what you're saying? Yeah, absolutely. I think, Craig, you have the same ability, don't you?
Yeah, but if it's not in the budget, Steve, he can't pay it. He can't find it somewhere else.
It's not like it's going above that amount, you know what I mean?
Well, what Steve is saying, I think Steve was saying though, is if you set a budget for it, if you got a fund balance, and you could take the fund balance. and-
No, he cannot.
You can't take that fund balance
You
into the
cannot.
raise part of it?
Not unless
He
it's
can
in
only
this.
spend it out of the budget for salaries that is allotted in the budget. Now, he can pay, you know, $1,000. He can pay one person 500, another 550 or something, you know.
So he can adjust the salaries, what's it that?
Yes,
can adjust
this
the
is a
salaries
staff
within
member.
He can adjust that himself.
Within
But
the
he can't add
parameters.
to it from
No.
the fund balance.
He cannot. Cannot.
You can't give a person a raise?
Well, yeah, I can.
If
But
he has
whatever
it.
I do, it can't go above. The cumulative impact cannot be different than what we budgeted for.
Right. In other words, if we budget him, say 600,000 for
So
salaries.
I decide to
he
give this
can't
person
put more than
5%.
600,000.
Correct.
I decide this person
Cannot
is
spend more than
3.5.
600,000. He can adjust that way he wants within that
Yes.
600,000, yes.
Yeah.
Do you hear us, Steve? If, let's say the budget for, is $600,000 for salaries, he can adjust it, but he can't go above that.
I could shift that around. Some are lower percentages, some are higher percentages.
So the people in yellow are being taken out of the,
Yes.
are there any other people that are already in the bridge fund besides you?
The bottom two have always been in the road and bridge fund, and half of mine has always been in the road and bridge fund.
Okay.
No, I'm not sure I understand what the difference is between the general.
I'm not sure I do either.
And the permanent.
The general road and bridge, I guess the simplest way to, because it's not black and white, there's a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of, I think it's kind of vague in my opinion.
You're absolutely right. And permanent harbor is just for the construction of roads and fixing it. Road and bridge provides all the other authority
Yes.
and funding for within the highway.
Okay, so that's permanent hard road is for Construction.
You're putting, it's blacktop, you know, you're fixing roads.
Pavement.
you're- Absolutely. Those are the physical things you see. Those are all road and bridge, and you can believe that.
This is some of the screwiest things in township government.
Well, yeah, it's confusing.
Okay,
Well,
nothing simple about it. It could be, but nobody changes it.
so even though these
Well,
people.
what do you suggest we should have a conversation on how you think we should simplify it? Don't assume that we can't, that we're just against not changing it, because I'm willing to listen. Keep that in mind, please keep that in mind.
I'm just trying
If
to
you have an idea,
understand.
come and tell me.
Do these, just take this Carlos, for example,
Mhm.
at the top.
Yeah.
He appears on the budget for the permanent hard road,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
But in reality, he does a lot of work for the bridge fund too, right?
Well, he does a lot of maintenance throughout the, yes, absolutely. It is not broken out specifically as, he does both. He does both. I mean, theoretically, you could take all of these, put them all over on the other side and say, they're just doing maintenance of road, because the construction is done by contractors potentially. You know, there is no great defined divide between them. There is not.
Why isn't it all just one budget instead of two?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's because the way the levy comes in, okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
part of the
I-
overall
All right,
structure.
so
It's not easy.
So in effect, you could give people a 6% raise if you got rid of one person.
Potentially.
Draw straws.
Well, I'm not gonna hide anything. When I see that you got 30% of the total roads that you're maintaining, roads that you've entered into these intergovernmental agreements on with municipalities, that means you've got an excess number of people working for the town.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. We've got 95 miles of road.
Right, not including this additional amount from Indian Ridge.
And Indian Ridge is another 6, and the others are another 7.7, okay?
Well, I thought you were doing snow plowing and other things, for like.
Those 7.7 are included in that snow plowing and other things. And Indian Ridge actually is in ours because we've been maintaining it.
Okay. So if you've got extra, if you're doing the 7.7 miles, assuming that it costs the same amount per mile, which I don't know if it is. Do these other towns, do they require more work than the township?
No, it's plowing, the stuff that we do is plowing of roads. And the reason for doing intergovernmental agreements is 2 purposes. One, we are driving up and down their roads. For instance, Ringwood Road is more efficient for us to plow all of Ringwood Road than to split it up between McHenry, Johnsburg, Wonder Lake, Ringwood, etc.
But I'm not talking about the swaps that make sense.
Well, not all of them are swaps. Ringwood doesn't plow any roads for us. Wonder Lake doesn't plow any roads for us. Okay?
Okay, so those 2 municipalities fall in the 7.7 miles?
They do. McComb Lake fall, no, they don't fall in the 7.7 miles. The 7.7 miles is our roads. There is no overlap there. The 7.7 miles is going to be our roads, period. It has nothing to do with other municipalities.
Well, I'm not talking about the Indian Ridge stuff that's coming in. I mean, what the road district has signed on to do for other municipalities.
Including the county, are you saying?
Well, if you want to
The
break it out,
7.7
if you want
miles
to break
is
it
the
out
county.
like that, yes.
Yeah, the 7.7, I guess I was confused. When you said municipalities, I think of villages and towns. I guess a government agency, the county is a government agency. That was the 7.7 miles is the government agency.
And you don't do anything for the state, right? The state
No.
itself is out.
Well, when we pull out of here and we get down to there, and they haven't been by, we drop our blade. When we go from here to Pioneer Road, we drop our blade. When it was so icy one morning that there were accidents up and down here and they were nowhere to be found, we drove our truck up and down to throw some salt down to try to stop some accidents. But no, we don't do anything for IDOT.
Including swaps.
No swaps for IDOT.
Okay, and then the county, how many swaps? Miles?
We don't swap any. They pay us to do the 7.7.
Okay, so the county is 7.7.
Yes.
And then how many miles for all these municipalities?
If we are at 120 miles and 95 plus 7 is 102, call it 103 because it's 7.7, so 103 to 100, so that'd be about 17 miles, does that sound about right? And of those 17 miles, Johnsburg and McHenry are swaps, and if I were to guess that each of those are, let's just say, and I don't have them in front of me, but I'm just gonna guess 3 miles for each of them, let's just say. That would be another 6, so we're at 103.
Well, I don't even want to consider swaps, because I consider that to be
Oh, fair trade, yeah.
fair trade, and it's about the same.
I'm trying to
amount.
get to it, I'm trying to get to it. So, we've got 95 plus 7.7 is 103, plus 6 is 109. So there's maybe 11 miles of road that we plow for Ringwood, McCollum Lake, not Johnsburg, Ringwood, McCollum Lake, Wonder Lake are the ones that I can, and Lakemore. Well, no, Lakemore's a swap now, sorry. Lakemore's a swap. So that would be another one to add on to there. We were at 109, Lakemore's probably a couple miles, so we're at 100, there might be 9 miles of road. Hey, just, again, just ballparking, I don't remember, I'd have to go back and look at the exact numbers. Okay?
Well, can you give that to us?
Actually, yeah, I'm glad to, no problem.
All right,
No problem.
so here's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
The total number of township roads,
Mhm.
including this new amount,
Gotta find my pad. Hold on one second.
including this Indian Ridge obligation that we've taken.
Okay, say that again, total amount of township roads?
All right, the total amount of township roads you have is approximately 95.
There's
Before we
95.
count in Indian Ridge?
Yes, 95 plus or minus, yes.
Okay,
Then you add Indian Ridge, which is 6 miles.
all right. So that, whatever that figure comes out to is the total amount of township roads.
Yes.
Okay.
So the
So
total
it's about
amount,
101, something like that.
yeah, 101. Do you want to add the 7.7 into there yet too?
Well, you're doing it now, right?
Okay, so let's add the 7.7.
And it'll be in this budget, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it has to be added in.
Yeah.
Okay, so then,
So we're at 108,
0.7.
well,
109. We'll just round it. Yeah, 109.
I thought that the Indian Ridge was about 6 miles.
That's what he said, 6 miles.
All right, so it's 101. 95 plus,
7.7.
the 7.7 is from what?
The IGA that we're just doing with the county to take those roads in that are not dedicated roads that have been
Oh,
paying us to
okay,
maintain.
Okay,
So,
right,
so we'll just get to 109 with that. Okay.
okay. And the swaps, you certified to us that those are basically real swaps. In other words, the
The mileage
township.
is not exactly the same, but they're close. Lakemore is the biggest difference because Lakemore plows subdivision roads that are very tight roads. In other words, a lot of intersections, a lot of stopping, starting, cleaning intersections, tough roads to plow. In exchange, we plow their rural roads, which are wide open and we can fly up and down with our equipment. Okay, so it's much easier, less intersection basically, and that,
So that turns out to be a better deal.
for both parties involved. Because all we do is wave to each other going by.
Okay, so-
Otherwise,
In other words, the time involved and the resources expended on the swaps are really true swaps.
yes.
And we don't have a time.
True swaps is, are they 99.99%? No, but they're within 10%.
In other words, I'm concerned about a municipality doing the really expensive stuff, swapping it with you guys,
Yeah.
and you're doing the easy, they're doing the easy stuff for us.
Yes. No,
Okay?
Right.
All right, so they're all
Yep.
about equality.
To the best of my judgment there,
Okay.
when I ask the guys, is this a fair trade? Yes, we'll take it any day.
All right, and
It's a
the
pretty good
swap,
indication that we're in a good spot.
and the swaps with all the other municipalities
The swapping, yes.
come out to about how many miles?
I will have
Just
to.
approximately.
Yeah, so, I said McHenry, I'm guessing 3, and Johnsburg, I'm guessing 3. It might be 1, it might be, it's not 5, but,
In Lakemore is what, 2 or something?
I would guess, complete guess.
And that's the only ones really.
There are swaps, straight up.
And then we don't really swap with the county.
No, we don't, they pay us for that. That is part of the 7 point, that's the
Okay.
7.7 they've been paying us for.
All right.
But that's gonna stop now, right?
Yes, because those are gonna become our roads.
Okay, so that's out of the, this county thing is out now for the next,
Yes.
for the next bill, okay.
Unless I can make some other good deals with them.
All right.
To pay for more of our roads.
And there's no other municipalities are swapping,
Not swapping.
right?
Not swapping,
So it's correct.
yes.
Okay.
If I walk out of here and I go, oh shit, I forgot that one,
No, no,
please
I-
excuse me.
I realize this is it's more I mean, you deal with it all the time, we're just dealing it now, so
Got it.
we rely on you to give us kind of an idea, a true picture of what it is. Okay, so, does the township, do a contract or any other arrangement, do non-governmental roads?
Non-governmental?
Yeah, private roads or anything like that?
The only thing that I can think of is one small stretch, because a majority of it is in McCollum Lake, it's the road that you live on at the end there, and we go down to turn around and come back out anyway, if I recall. You familiar with what I'm talking about?
No, because that's entirely incorporated into McCollum Lake. That
I thought
road.
there was a little stretch just past it that's not.
No.
Okay, well, then that's the only one that I can think of.
And I, by the way, I had nothing to do with that.
You do not, absolutely not. But I know you're familiar with the road, that's why I say that, okay? But we plow for McCollum Lake, and a section of that road is McCollum Lake, but I thought there was a piece at the end, and if you tell me otherwise, then I guess I was wrong on that
They
part.
mix the entire road as far as I know.
Okay, so regardless, but
Because McCollum Lake is on the other side of the
I
entire
cannot-
road to the end, even that turnaround. I mean, that's where the municipal center is. So it takes in the entirety of the road.
however, but that is the only one that I could possibly think of.
Okay.
And so,
All right, so now, in terms of miles of municipalities that are being paid for, like Greenwood, right? Because there's no swapping with Greenwood,
no,
or McCollum Lake, really, right?
no.
So how many miles are you picking up for municipalities that are just paid for by this municipality?
I was estimated that we have about over 120 miles that we maintain, okay? We just did the numbers here. This numbers that we've done so far, other than the ones you were asking about, are 117, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That would mean that there's about 3 miles, I think it's more than 3 miles of roads that we get paid to snowplow, basically.
But you snowplow the entirety of McCollum Lake, right?
Right, that's why I'm saying,
But that's gotta be like
Not the whole municipality.
8 miles.
I don't think it's that far, but we have it listed. You know the IGAs that we supplied you? There isn't.
It's on there.
Do all of
Yeah.
McCollum?
You want to look it up?
You're doing the house all inside McCollum Lake?
We do all of McCollum Lake.
I thought it was just
I
Maine.
thought there was just.
Do you want me to look at that?
Well, how many, that's a good question, how many miles of that you're doing?
It's in the IGA.
All right, let me,
All right. They had a staff and their equipment broke down last year. We were using it, they were using us as a backup. So last year they went out to bid, and they estimated how much it would cost. They had an estimate of what they would cost, or what they did was they were charging per event. They had certain guidelines. We evaluated how much it cost them per event, the way that they wanted it done, and the way that we plow it, okay? In other words, if the contractor only came out after a half an inch of snow, of wet, or an inch of dry, and then plowed, we determined how many events there would have been and what we would have billed them for that, billing at our rates. And then we billed them based on what we do it for, okay? When we go out, we're not gonna go out and not do McCollum Lake if we're doing everybody else, okay? So, we calculated what it would have cost. It was, I wanna say 10,000 to bill it per the contract, the way the contract would have been. And we would have billed them 12,500 or something. So this last year, we've switched it to bill it, and I said, we'll do it 1 year just to compare, to see what the difference is. And the difference was the guidelines and what they billed. They were not snow plowing all the time that we're out snow plowing, but we're not gonna change for that. So they are willing to pay, and they're paying more this year based on the criteria that we plow on, not the criteria that they had originally bid out. because they were satisfied with the service. So
So
they paid for
they're
it.
actually paying more for your
Yes.
service than they paid for the private
Than
contractor?
they would have done before, because we'll only do it the way we, we're
Right.
not gonna go out. When we go out and we do all of our roads. And if they wanna live with that standard and pay the extra, that's what they're doing.
I mean, you go out when? If it's a half inch, what?
We go out when there's a transportation hazard. If there's a hazard with snow, whether it be ice, whether it be slick, whether it be anything.
So what if it's just snow? How much, what does the depth of the snow have to be before you go
Depends,
out?
it's not necessarily on the depth of the snow, it's the condition of the road. And at what point does the road get slippery, and that's when we're going out to take care of it.
Okay, so who decides if it's a road hazard? You, right?
Actually, I've been doing it for the past 3 years. This year, we did a joint, and I've turned it over to the two of the guys that have been here for the last 15, 20 years, and they're a little better at it than me, so they actually are starting to do that.
I have that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah,
I'm
so,
looking for.
but you're gonna give us a whole
I have it up.
printout with it, so you don't have to go back to each one of the concepts.
Yeah, we'll just give you a list of what it is, yeah, if you don't need it right now, sure. Sounds good.
Craig, did you say that there were some items that we needed to cover?
But that is not in this budget.
Just say
here.
the next meeting.
That's in the
Oh, we
next,
just,
that's in the other.
we can say on the next
The
meeting.
income for that
Take 2
will be
seconds.
in the revenue portion of that, yes.
But it's not just road plowing.
Yeah.
It's also patching, right?
We charge them for the patching, yes. In McCollum Lake in particular, where we did it, that's the only place that we really patched. I take that back. We do, other things that we do are striping, because we have a striping machine, so it's efficient for one entity to have the striping machine and they reimburse us or swap services for us. We do it in Nunda, we do it with Greenwood, places like that, okay? And then we also stripe for Ringwood, because we're going up and down Ringwood Road, we stripe it if they want us to. And we do shouldering. If Ringwood wants us to do shouldering while we're out shouldering, we'll do shouldering, okay?
And shouldering involves tree work too,
No,
but you do tree work too.
if they request us to do tree work, yes, we would consider doing that.
So how do you base the charging these towns to do tree work? Did you ask?
We keep track of the hours and time that we have, and then we have a rate for the equipment and the employees.
Well, to even take on other municipalities, that means you've got people who aren't doing township work, right?
Well, actually, we're.
It's a very small
we've got a
portion.
township that's
It's a very
actually contracting
small,
work
it's a
out.
very small piece of the work that we do. It's a very small piece of the work that we do, number one. Number two,
Well, I don't think it's small. It's like 10-30% of your work is coming out to be snow plowing, is these outside municipalities that aren't in swaps.
we just, well, let's take a step back. I just said we had about 120 miles or a little bit more that we maintain, okay? And we just went through and we're at 117 that are swapped.
But the town of McCollum Lake has got about to have 20 miles of its own.
We'll figure it out and I'll look at it, but
Jim?
And then you're
As
doing
long as we're
Ringwood
paid for
too?
that.
And Ringwood too?
Ringwood, the only thing we do is Barnard Mill and Ringwood Road.
Who's the contractor inside out?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Ringwood's contractor inside roads out there?
Subdivisions themselves, you mean?
No, Ringwood, the roads that are inside, you're talking about the main roads, the
Yes.
Barnard Road.
Mhm.
Do they have their own plow or they
They
contract?
contract their own.
They contract it out
Yes.
there?
They contract with Upland, I believe.
Jim, would having people with smaller trucks be a reasonable request to look into, especially in McCollum Lake and Indian Ridge?
We actually use, we use a smaller truck and we use, what is it called, a 1 ton in Indian Ridge. Not in Indian Ridge, in, McCollum Lake.
Yeah, because the roads are really, for a big truck, it's really more of a nuisance than an advantage.
And so, Craig, for the Toyma insurance,
Correct.
you guys are covered under it too, right? So that's all broken down, township pays X?
Yes, it is.
And the road district pays what?
Well, it's broken down, I don't have it.
It is broken down, they send it to us broken down.
Okay.
And as long as we're on Tormouth, I could just bring this up. We just got a $11,000, what would you call it?
It's a rebate.
Rebate check from them for
We
this
get a
year,
rebate.
based
And
on
it is,
the claims for the whole, everybody's.
And it is split between the road and
And that's that'll be in the budget then too, right?
Correct.
In the new one, or is it in this one?
it's in both.
The expenses are in both. The
The
refund is unanticipated.
We
It's
don't know what the
impossible to
refund's gonna be,
guesstimate that.
so it gets,
It just gets put back.
it gets
into the
put back
direct-
into the line item and taken out is what happens.
Right,
But if we receive the rebate, when would that be?
we just got it.
We just got it, it'll be in this
Well,
year's
this year.
budget,
It'll be in
this
this
year's
year's
budget,
budget.
with your final numbers.
The current budget, okay.
Correct. We don't know what next year's is gonna be, so we can't put it in.
Or it'll even
We
be
get it
one.
in March every year,
Correct, correct.
if we get one.
Now, can they do it the other way around? Say, now your claims are high, so we want 5,000, we want 11,000 back the other way?
I suppose they could, but they never have. For the last, at least the last 15 years, they've been getting a rebate.
Okay. And that other bus we own, the township owns, isn't on anything because it's not even used, right? Or-
It's on the insurance in case we would use it. It is, it's there. Every piece of equipment in this township is on that insurance, and every building.
All right. Yes, the breakdown of the roads. Because I'm not gonna make any secret about it. If we're doing 30% more, that means that we probably don't need 30% of the employees, right? I mean, you'd have to, if
I don't
you're taking
believe
on
so.
all this extra work, and it comes at critical times, right? The snow comes, everybody wants to plow. If you can't do the township roads because you're stuck in all these municipalities and you got agreements, and it's a problem, right? So you would never have agreed to do it
Other than.
if you couldn't do it.
Other than it's helping a municipality, if the costs are a wash between the two, I think it's reasonable to do that for a municipality.
Could we go into a flex time with the employees? For example, we know a storm is coming, but it's coming in the middle of the night, or it's coming after regular work hours. Can you do a flex time where they work during the storm and not, when they're not really doing anything? Or doing something that's far less important, okay? Can we look into that?
Can we have flex time? In other words, instead of them working the regular 8-hour day, they wouldn't be in for the first 4 hours in the morning and then work past the 4 hours at the end of the day?
Or something like that?
We already do kind of a hybrid of that in that we allow comp time for those extra hours outside of the regular hours of work.
Because that's for everybody, right?
That's for everybody.
And you've got your own
Except for
policy, written policy like the township
Yes.
has? Or you just go by the township?
No, it's our policy.
Okay. I'm just trying,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I know you're
Nothing wrong
doing
with
it,
asking.
I'm not saying you're not doing a good job, okay? The contrary, all right? But that's why you got a board, to say, come up with maybe a good idea. I think it would be an excellent idea for both the supervisor and the road district commissioner. And I don't think the board would have any problem with it. If somebody can come up with a way to save money, a significant and substantial way, in a legit way, and a real way, not phony stuff on, that they should get a reward for doing that. So we encourage the actual workers in the field that know what's going on and see everything.
Steve, I think you talked about this before. I think we would be happy to put together some kind of program for that.
And I think they would like it too, right?
No, I would
I mean,
100% object to that because I've seen so many flaws with it. I understand how you can do that in the private sector, and I understand how you can reward a contractor, as an example, where IDOT, you have a deadline, and if you beat the deadline because it's a road that you want open because it's important, they're rewarded for beating the deadline. I think we should be doing that as our job from the start. I don't believe that we should be rewarded for doing that. That is our job. That's the definition of our job and what we should be doing. Now, do we think of everything? No.
That's you guys, as the supervisors of your respective areas.
Yes.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But the rank and file people are different.
Oh, you mean if the rank and file come up with ideas?
Right.
That's
Yes.
respectful. The only problem, and I've been in these programs before, Steve, we have to be very careful
Yeah.
how we quantify what's really a savings, because people will come up with all kinds of ideas that aren't feasible sometimes.
And that's our job.
And then they'll want the reward.
Well, that's our job as board members.
Well, or the
to be
supervisor's
in
job.
judgment of that.
But what you would want to do is waste so much time
Right.
going back and forth that it becomes inefficient. You don't,
We
I just
have-
don't see a big gain. To be quite honest with you, we already are encouraging our guys, when we sit down and I say, if you guys got an idea, you need to speak up. We're already doing that. We're already saying, what are your ideas? Tell me what we're doing to save time. A perfect example is, why are we using this grade all, the big ditches, instead of a mini excavator? We got a mini excavator last year, and the work that we are able to do, stuff like that, they're actually doing that stuff already, you know? So they're actually
All right,
truly
well,
doing it.
we didn't know about that, so
Sure.
you came and told us. And we don't know if the regular township is doing
You know
something.
what, we try to be as efficient as we can too, Steve. I don't have that many people, but I'm not against the program if it would make sense. Let's put it that way.
I think people should be
I don't know all
rewarded for the job
the
they're doing.
particular ins and outs, but maybe beet juice is cheaper to use than the salt and works better. Or whatever it is, I'm just saying that as an example. And there's a substantial savings doing something one way or another, or getting a piece of equipment that costs $7,000, but you save $70,000. Whatever it is, okay?
Yeah. I look
Can I
at
make a
it,
suggestion
Yes,
that we call this meeting is after 12?
okay, yeah,
Because I think you only get so much accomplished,
hold on a second.
but,
I just have one question.
Debbie has a
unless
question.
Jim's got something to finish up right away.
I think you have our permanent hard road and you understand what we've done. Please go back and the next time, if you want any changes or suggestions, we'll do those quick and then, and knock those out real quick if that's what we're doing next. And then we'll just jump right over into the general road and bridge and start going through it in the same fashion, if that's all right with you. Fine.
Sounds good with me.
Okay, Debbie, you have a question?
I just have a quick question. We're not looking for a fourth draft on the cone, correct?
No, we're not gonna put for one until after we get the final number.
Right, yeah.
Because we have no changes,
But
no other
we have to
changes.
figure out the next meeting too.
Right, well, that's what we're gonna talk about right now. I have Tuesday, April 2nd down. Bob couldn't meet on the 1st. I will be out of town on the 3rd, 4th. So that leaves the 2nd or the 5th, so.
Second is good for me.
2nd's a Tuesday.
Tuesday, what, are you gonna be gone?
I'm gonna go to the 3rd and 4th.
As am I.
It's not a good day for me coming back at that time.
The second is bad for me too.
We could do
Can we do it the third?
What?
No, I'm gonna go be out of town. I could do it the 5th, Friday.
Friday, I'd rather, yeah, that'd be better for me.
Okay. Jim can't be there.
Oh, okay.
Can we skip a week? Just
Yeah.
Just go to the 8th.
I think we should.
Let's skip a week. By that
Next
time.
meeting is the 8th.
Okay.
And
All right.
no sense coming Friday.
And then we can come back Monday. That's kind of dumb. So let's go ahead and we'll skip next week. We'll come back on Monday, April 8th for our next budget hearing.
At 9 o'clock.
Is that all agreed? Let's vote on that. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Oh, wait, I need a
At 9
motion.
o'clock.
I need a
I'll
motion
make that motion.
Second, for 9 o'clock.
for 9 o'clock on Monday the 8th. Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Any opposed? None being heard. Our next meeting will be Monday, April 8th at 9 a.m.
Who made the motion?
You made the motion. Bob seconded. We need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn this meeting at 7 after 12.
Okay, Bob's made the motion. Seconded by Mr. Rakestraw. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any nays? None heard? Meeting's adjourned.
Great.
We're doing it.
See you guys. Barbara's gone. I got the chair. You want to write the question?
Oh, my goodness, it's way too
See you on the
long.
9th, I mean, and then on the 11th.
In there, a little long.
Go back.
That's fine.
I'm going to No, I'm not, no.
Steve?
I got somewhere years ago. Oh, so that's what it is? Yeah. No, I'm not there. There's three people who are challenging.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll give him my resume.
No, no, no.
Maybe ask Craig too.
Let me go to the library.
Yeah, and then I'll CC you on it. Yeah, that's fine, because I think you're right.
It still creates a negative amount, but it's
Yeah, but it's not the right. I agree with you.
I think you voted.
That's
Dan, thanks for getting my cushion. I wouldn't have made it.
Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
Thanks for
Thank
getting
you.
the cushion. I wouldn't have made it.
I'll make
Great
sure,
week.
I'll make sure there's a more comfortable chair next.
Get a recliner.
We have the solid ones. We could just bring in one of the, like my work chair, my desk chair, like our desk chair. We have extra. That's got a solid back in it.
Yes. All right, they can pick up cushion.
$15 a ride.
I would just bring in one of my desk chairs. It's got a full back
All right,
Round trip is two rides.
and it's
So
adjustable.
all right, I gotta go.
I'm sure you do. I need to see you before you leave.
How's your wife, Stan?
Good, he's hanging in there, good.
Just like that juice.
You getting any better?
Debbie, you need to see me?
Yeah.
All right, make it quick, 'cause I gotta.
Really?
I've got a dog and a.
Do you not know me not to be quiet?
frog in the kennel?
Last 6 hour, and I'm about ready to.
I'll come back to that. Is it your phone or whose phone?
It's not.
No, that's,
Where?
I think that's Jim's.
Oh, we better get him, man.
Who's that, Jim Militello?
Yeah.
It's not Mike's.
Mike, you're sure that's not yours, right?
I don't think I brought my phone.
Well,
Does it have a picture of the lake on that front?
Nope.
that might be Anderson's son.
Or it could be.
I don't know. I just want to save Militello a trip coming back if it's his.
Oh, he'll be back.
Right? He will definitely be back.
Really super stoked up.
Bob, do you leave a phone here? What? Did you leave a phone here? No, I left my jacket there. I don't have a phone.
Somebody left the phone here.
Let me tell.
Where's the phone?
Oh, I have it.
I just left my papers in my jacket there.
Okay. Then it's
Was it
right.
ran? Or just your phone? Was the phone
Jim,
ran?
you need your phone?
No, it's just, you think it was still,
It's here.
Oh,
that's me.
Just saved me an hour of going and then going back and then coming and thinking about it.
Well,
oh.
that's a,
There is a
don't call
phone.
it.
And well, it's not gonna work because I turned it off.
Oh, that's even better.
I put it on airplane mode. Well, after the first two went off ringing, I'm thinking to myself,
I don't
That's what happens. Have a good week.
I'll have to put a little tether on that, right?
Yeah.
Bye, Debbie.
Have a good week.
Yeah, thank you too.
Is this your bag or is this Mike's? This is Mike's. That's Mike's.
I'll see him. I'll take it outside.
Okay, bye.
Yep, so long. Good afternoon.
What?
You forgot thing there.
Oh, shit.
Why do I get stuck with all this stuff now? I'm just like. Take my coffee, that'd be great. Thank you.
I can use this.